Chapter 1350. Tang Zhang was flabbergasted that ordinary people would attack his home. He had no enmity with them, so why would they do such a thing? After listening to his grandfather's narration, he gradually understood that these ordinary people knew their identity as cultivators and blamed the disaster brought by the Golden Crow's soul on them. His intuition told him that there was something fishy going on. They disguised themselves well, so how could ordinary people know their identity? But he did not tell his grandfather and only comforted him for a while before reminding him that he would fake his death. Tang Dehai was very surprised as he did not understand why he would do such a thing. But he believed in him unconditionally, so he did not ask. "Little Zheng, don't worry. I will definitely not tell anyone." Tang Dehai held his grandson's hand and said solemnly. Tang Zheng left the room and went to another villa. Before he entered, he found that there were many people in the living room and the atmosphere was very serious. He did not show himself but relied on illusions to quietly come to the corner of the living room. Not only were his relatives in the living room, but the Yen family was also here. Everyone was discussing the identity of the attacker. They all thought that there was something fishy going on and that there was definitely someone behind this. However, they could not guess who the person behind this was. Could it be the chief? Yi Dingdang asked on a whim. "We can't rule out this possibility. I heard that he seemed to have appeared again, and his position in the upper echelons has risen. Many people are biased towards him and some of his opponents have been suppressed by him." Yen Qishan was well informed and knew a lot of inside information. Tang Zheng was shocked. Could it be that he was the one behind this? He had to save Li Xiaotian first. The other party did not cause any big waves, so he could deal with them later. Heaven Monk remained silent the entire time. Regarding this so-called attack, he was more concerned about what happened at the peak of Heaven Mountain. The 9 Golden Crow souls fell, proving that the operation was a success. He was very clear that this success required a huge price to pay and even sacrifice. After all, the Yellow Emperor's old subordinates must have made full preparations to condense the Golden Crow's soul. What was the specific situation? He felt as if there was a huge rock pressing down on his heart. Suddenly, he seemed to have sensed something and turned his head to look towards a corner of the hall. His gaze as sharp as a knife. That was exactly where Tang Zheng was hiding. He was shocked. Had he been seen through by Tian Chanzi? He didn't act rashly. He also stared at Tian Chanzi. Their eyes met, but Tian Chanzi couldn't see him. Feng Shishir noticed Tian Chanzi's strange expression and asked curiously, "Master, what's wrong?" Tian Chanzi retracted his gaze and shook his head. "Maybe I'm just too sensitive. I keep feeling like someone is spying on us." "Someone is spying?" The others were horrified and looked left and right, yet they didn't notice the figure of an outsider, and they couldn't help but feel bewildered. "Don't worry. Maybe I'm thinking too much." Tian Chanzi didn't want everyone to be too nervous, so he shook his head and comforted them. "I wonder how the peak of Heaven Mountain is doing." Marshall sighed. "It must have succeeded. The spirit of the Golden Crow has disappeared." Lu Qingmei said. The others nodded in agreement. Everyone was gathered in the hall, so he couldn't show himself. Seeing the group of people frowning, he was worried that once the news of his death came back, it would cause a huge uproar. Just as he was thinking of a way to lure someone back to the room so that he could show himself, the door was pushed open with a bang. Almost all of the Witch Clan people were standing outside the door, their faces filled with indescribable pain. Seeing this, the elder asked in a deep voice, "What happened? Why are you so careless?" The Witch Clan people separated, and the Thundercloud Beast and the Scarlet Moon Beast walked in. Tang Zheng's heart tightened. These two fellows only came back a little later than him. It seemed like the news of his death would be announced soon. Everyone saw that other than the two beasts, there was no one else. They had a bad feeling in their hearts. "Thundercloud Beast, Scarlet Moon Beast, why are you the only ones back?" Feng Shishir asked impatiently. "That's right, where's Tang Zheng? Where's the Empyrean Fairy and Li Xiaotian?" The others looked at them nervously with burning eyes, afraid that they would hear the bad news that they were afraid of. The two beasts' eyes were filled with heartbreak and pain. According to their agreement with Tang Zheng, they sobbed and said, "Master Tang Zheng is dead." "What?" Cries of surprise rose from all directions. Everyone thought that they had heard wrongly, but seeing each other's reactions, they knew that they had not heard wrongly. Everyone stood up and strode over to the two beasts. They asked, Did you make a mistake? How could he die? The two beasts had already discussed the wording and said in a pained voice, "It's true, he's dead." They spoke intermittently about everything that had happened at the peak of Heaven Mountain. They only changed the final ending and changed it to Tang Zheng's death. Everyone was dumbfounded. It was as if they had been immobilized and were rooted to the spot. Bang! Feng Shusher closed her eyes and fell to the ground with a loud bang. This time was different from the last time. Last time, it was someone else who sent the news. This time, the Thundercloud Beast and Scarlet Moon Beast witnessed it with their own eyes. How could it be fake? Moreover, everyone knew that the danger this time was far greater than the previous time. Naturally, they believed the two beasts' words. Yi Dingdong's boundless vitality seemed to have been sucked out of her body. Although she did not faint, it was as if she had become a different person. Marshall kept shaking her head. Her eyes were wet. She muttered to herself, "How could he die? How could he die?" To Marshall, other than being her beloved, Tang Zhang had another identity. He was the son of her master and master's wife. If they knew that their son was dead, they would not be able to live. They had lost their son once, and this second blow was unbearable. Lu Qingmei seemed to have been possessed. Her body went soft and fell onto the sofa. Her knees hit a hard object and immediately bruised. She did not notice it at all. On the contrary, the one with the biggest reaction was Mu Hongyan. She had always been a strong businesswoman. She screamed and kept shaking her head. "No, he can't be dead." She had once lost her husband. It was an incomparably heavy blow, but she was strong enough to withstand it. Later on, she met Tang Zheng. Although it was a secret relationship, she had completely given her heart to him. Losing her beloved for the second time, even if she was incomparably strong, she could not bear it. She did not care to hide her relationship with Tang Zheng. "Tang Zheng, didn't you say that you would always be with me? You still have to accompany Nana. Why did you leave? You are too cruel. How can you bear to let me lose my lover for the second time? What is the meaning of my life?" Mu Hongyan muttered to herself. If these words were said normally, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. After all, no one would have thought that she and Tang Zhang would have such a relationship. But at this moment, everyone was immersed in grief, and their shock was greatly reduced. They just turned to look at her and did not say anything. "Wah wah, brother." Nana burst into tears. Tears fell from her tender cheeks like pearls. Her crying was heart-wrenching, as if it was tearing the hearts of others. Princess Anne's reaction was relatively calm. Although she also had feelings for Tang Zheng, after all, there was no real relationship. She just widened her eyes in horror. In just a second, the atmosphere in the big room completely changed. Heavy, painful, and depressed shrouded everyone's hearts. Yen Qishan and Yen Luyun looked at each other. They really could not believe this news. In their eyes, Tang Zheng was like a cockroach that could not be killed. They had never thought that he would die. Bang! With another muffled sound, the elder of the Wu tribe knelt on the ground. Tears flowed down his face. He cried out hysterically, "Master! Master!" The other Wu tribe members also knelt in the direction of Sky Mountain. Their tears were like a flood that broke the dam, covering everyone's cheeks. Tian Chanzi was extremely shocked. However, he was, after all, experienced and knowledgeable. He was calmer and did not lose his composure too much. However, he still could not digest this news. When Tang Zheng saw this scene, he was extremely anxious. He wished that he could immediately rush out and free them from the quagmire of pain. In the end, he controlled himself. A little impatience spoils great plans. However, he had to quickly tell the few people who were close to him that he was not dead and free them from their pain. He only hoped that everyone would return to their own rooms. "Where is Master's body?" the elder of the Wu tribe suddenly asked. It disappeared in the flames with Li Xiaotian. The Thundercloud Beast and the Red Moon Beast already had a plan and answered directly. Dead without a complete corpse. This thought appeared in everyone's mind. They could not help but feel a chill in their hearts and become even more sorrowful. "Master!" The members of the Wu tribe were heartbroken and wailed. Lu Qingmei and Yi Dingdang finally could not take it anymore. They rolled their eyes and fell to the ground. "This!" Tang Zheng was shocked and almost rushed over again. "Quick! Help them back to their rooms." Tian Chanzi saw that 3 of them had fainted. If this continued, the whole room would be filled. Everyone helped each other and finally helped them back to their rooms. The others returned to the hall and looked at each other. For a moment, it was as if they had lost their purpose in life and were at a loss. Tang Zheng quickly took action. He first entered Feng Sheshe's room. She was the first person who fainted. He had to let her know the truth in time. Sheshe, Sheshe. He gently shook Feng Sheshe and called out softly. She finally woke up. Tang Zheng, am I dead? I finally see you. Oh. She suddenly threw herself into Tang Zheng's arms and cried loudly. Tang Zheng hugged her and kept patting her back, comforting her. It's all my fault. I made you suffer and made you sad. Feng Sheshe kept shaking her head. I want to die with you. From now on, we will never be separated. We will be reincarnated together. Tang Zheng did not know whether to laugh or cry. What reincarnation? You are not dead and I am not dead. Not dead? Feng Sheshe was shocked and stared at him in disbelief. Touch me. My body is still warm. Tang Zheng held her hand and put it on his face. Chapter 1351. Feng Sheshe leaned into Tang Zheng's arms and cried tears of joy. After listening to Tang Zheng's explanation of the whole story, her heart still couldn't calm down. You said the Empyrean fairy was kidnapped? Li Xiaotian sacrificed herself to save you. Tang Zheng nodded heavily. Yes, if it wasn't for Li Xiaotian, you definitely wouldn't be able to see me. We used to target her, but I didn't expect that she would save you at the most critical moment. Feng Sheshe said with shame. Tang Zheng stroked her hair and said, So, I must save her. Bring her back from the dead. Do you want to go to the ghost realm? Feng Sheshe's heartstrings trembled as she guessed Tang Zheng's thoughts. Yes. Then. Feng Sheshe hesitated for a moment, but in the end, she didn't say anything to dissuade him. Li Xiaotian sacrificed herself for him, so he should save her. The energy of the 9 souls of the Golden Crow fused into your body and detonated your yang energy. Has the yang energy completely calmed down now? Feng Sheshe caressed his chest and asked worriedly. This question was very critical and almost hit the nail on the head. Tang Zheng replied, The energy of the Golden Crow's soul is very powerful. Even I haven't completely absorbed it yet, but my cultivation has already increased to the 9th stage of the divine transformation realm. Once I safely refine and absorb this energy, my cultivation will definitely make a qualitative leap. In addition, the yang energy contained in the Golden Crow's soul isn't pure yang energy. It only detonated the pure yang energy in my body. In this case, the pure yang energy is extremely difficult to calm down. Qi Yu's judgment is very accurate. However, Li Xiaotian is a virgin, so her pure yin energy is abundant. Moreover, she exhausted all of her pure yin energy, so she barely managed to calm my pure yang energy. In the future, the pure yang energy will still erupt. At this point, Tang Zheng couldn't help but feel gloomy. The age of 20 was a huge threshold for him. His pure yang energy would completely erupt. When that time came, it would definitely be more terrifying and dangerous than this time. Then, how would he be able to turn the situation around? He shook his head inwardly and temporarily discarded these distracting thoughts. When Feng Sheshe heard him clearly explain the whole story, she sighed. Her original prejudice against Li Xiaotian disappeared like smoke in thin air. Don't worry, I will never leak the news that you are still alive. This time, we must win this tough battle and defeat Qiyu. Otherwise, there will never be a day of peace. Feng Sheshe clenched her fists and firmly supported Tang Zheng's decision. Tang Zheng felt relieved in his heart. All right, you and Mu Hongyan are also. Suddenly, Feng Sheshe's eyes turned and stared straight at Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng lowered his head weakly and said, I'll go see the others first. We'll talk about other things later. With that, he hurriedly slipped out of the window. Feng Sheshe angrily stomped her feet. She was helpless. When she saw his figure disappear, the corner of her mouth revealed a charming smile. Tang Zheng went in and out of Lu Qingmei and Yi Dingdong's room and woke them up. He also explained the whole story and completely freed them from their pain. When he came out of the two's room, the sky was already bright. The Yen family had already left. They discussed for a long time but still couldn't come to a unified conclusion. But without a doubt, the news of Tang Zheng's death would definitely cause a huge uproar. They had to find a way to calm this wave. Otherwise, they would be affected as much as possible. Seeing the others listlessly return to their own rooms, Tang Zhang met with Mu Hongyan and Marshall. The two's endurance far surpassed the other girls. But after suffering such a blow, they were also in a daze. They were his women and also his closest people. If he hid it from them, the pain would be too great. She couldn't bear to see this scene, so she chose to meet them. Joy fell from the sky, and the two girls almost fainted from joy. Then, Tang Zhang met with the witch tribe elder. His loyalty to Tang Zhang could be seen by heaven and earth. He would definitely not leak any information about him. The witch tribe elder was like riding a roller coaster. When he saw Tang Zhang, his old heart almost jumped out of his chest. In the end, Tang Zhang hesitated for a while and decided to meet with Tian Chanzi. He was now the backbone of everyone. Many things depended on him. Without him, this family would not be able to support itself for the time being. Of course, he couldn't let him go. When Tang Zhang removed the illusion and stood in front of Tian Chanzi, he jumped back in shock and shouted, "You brat, you actually faked your death." He saw that Tang Zhang was a living person at a glance. Tang Zhang laughed and said, "If you didn't die, how could I die?" Tian Chanzi's thick eyebrows rose. He blew his beard and stared. "You brat, you can't wait for me to die." Tang Zhang shrugged his shoulders and spread out his hands, saying, "That's what you said." "I didn't say anything." The two of them joked with each other for a while, then returned to the main topic. Tang Zhang repeated his real experience. Tian Chanzi listened with wide eyes. After a long time, Tian Chanzi sighed and said, "Your plan is really good, but the price will not be small. Once the news of your death is announced, those wolves in the dark will definitely take action. They will not give up until they tear off a piece of meat from your body." Tang Zhang seemed to have already expected this. He said with a smile, "This requires you to make a move to intimidate the younger generation, so that they don't dare to have any improper thoughts." Tian Chanzi's strength was valiant. He indeed had this ability. Tian Chanzi rolled his eyes and said, "You brat, you're thinking about me again, aren't you?" Although he said this, he did not object. It was clear that he tacitly agreed with Tang Zheng's arrangement. In addition, "You have a more important thing to do. Contact the Yan family and find Yan Qingyi together. I have a feeling that although Yan Qingyi left without saying goodbye and has not been heard from since, she is still a member of the Yan family. She will definitely pay attention to the Yan family's movements. If you work together with the Yan family, you might be able to find her." Tang Zheng urged. "Yan Qingyi is very strange. The Emperor of Heaven merged into her body, but in the end disappeared. Do you think Yan Qingyi will save the Empyrean fairy?" Tian Chanzi asked worriedly. "The Emperor of Heaven is not as simple as you think. Although he has disappeared, once he finds out about his daughter, he will definitely not be indifferent. You just need to work together with the Yan family to find Yan Qingyi. But there is one thing, do not disclose my information to the Yan family for the time being." Tian Chanzi nodded thoughtfully. "Understood." After a pause, he asked, "How confident are you in going to the ghost realm to save her?" Tang Zheng shook his head and said, "I don't know, but I have to try." Tian Chanzi understood his thoughts and could not help but sigh. "All right, then I will wait for your early return." At this moment, the news of Tang Zheng's death had quietly spread to the outside world. For ordinary people, this name was very common. It was just a stranger, and not many people paid attention to it. But for 100 Change Star Lord and Lord Ji Wuxiang, this name was like thunder in their ears. Sometimes it was like a nightmare, making them unable to eat or sleep in peace. Hearing the news of his death, 100 Change Star Lord was so shocked that his eyeballs almost popped out. He exclaimed, "How could he die? How could he die?" Tang Zhang had repeatedly saved himself from danger in his hands. He subconsciously thought that Tang Zhang could not die, but this time he actually died. In particular, the details of the rumor were worth scrutinizing, which made people have to believe the authenticity of the news. Junko was dumbfounded and said with disappointment, "In this way I can't kill him with my own hands?" 100 Change Star Lord hugged Junko's slender waist and said, "In short, he is dead. As for who killed him, it is not important. We just need to see the result." Junko turned her head and stared at 100 Change Star Lord absent-mindedly. In the end, she did not refute. The 100 Transformation Star Lord's eyes gradually lit up as he said in high spirits, Tang Zheng is already dead, so his group of henchmen will definitely be in chaos. This is the best time to kill them all and completely extinguish them. Junko immediately nodded. Yes, we must eliminate those bastards. They used to be so arrogant, but now that Tang Zheng is gone, let's see how they can continue to do so. 100 Change Star-Lord smiled mysteriously. You will lead the team this time. We must give those henchmen a fatal blow. Yes. Junko's spirit was greatly roused. Her depressed mood was swept away, and she couldn't wait to eliminate the henchmen in the villa. TSK. TSK. He actually sacrificed himself to shoot down the soul of the Golden Crow and saved millions of people. How selfless. 100 Change Star-Lord shook his head with a mocking expression. So what if he is selfless? No one will remember his good deeds. On the contrary, a hat of shit will be placed on his head. Isn't there a rumor in the outside world that someone is inciting the masses to oppose the cultivators? The cultivators in the world will not take the blame. Tang Zheng is dead, and there is no evidence. Wouldn't it be more beneficial for our operation if we put the soul of the Golden Crow on his head? The 100 Transformations Star Sovereign said with a smile, but there was an eerie chill in his words. He had a lot of ability, but he ignored the soul of the Golden Crow and only cared about his own interests. Tang Zheng saved the world, but he put the hat of the Golden Crow's soul on Tang Zheng's head. This was to let the world poke at Tang Zheng's backbone. It was really too vicious. 100 Change Star-Lord's vicious nature could be seen from this. As the saying goes, people flock together. Junko did not have the slightest opinion. Instead, her eyes lit up and praised 100 Change Star-Lord for being wise and powerful. He actually thought of such a brilliant plan to kill with a borrowed knife. The dead cannot testify. This hat was fixed, and Tang Zheng did not even have the chance to resist. At least it was so in the eyes of the two. Another thing worth paying attention to is that we must find out who is inciting the hostility between the ordinary people and the cultivators. 100 Change Star-Lord also found that the attack of the ordinary people on Tang Zheng's villa was strange, so he was ready to investigate thoroughly. I guess it's the Azure Dragon Palace. They have always hated the cultivators. Of course, they will not miss this opportunity. Junko analyzed. Evidence. 100 Change Star-Lord spread out his hand and said to Junko. Junko nodded seriously. I will find it. Chi Yu is so powerful now, we should be more careful. Especially without the restriction of the Yellow Emperor tribe, Chi Yu's ambition will quickly expand. I have seen this process with my own eyes, so I am very clear. We have hidden so well he won't find out, right? Junko asked nervously. Chapter 1352. Wuxia escaped in a sorry state. He did not know how far he had run, but after confirming that there were no pursuers behind him, he stopped and panted like an ox. He turned his head and looked in the direction of the heavenly mountain. The morning sun was slowly rising into the sky, and the morning light shone on his body, making him look like a golden light. However, his heart felt as if it had fallen into an endless abyss of darkness. The pain and loss in his eyes were indescribable. He had become a loner, and all of the Yellow Emperor's former subordinates had been annihilated. His eyes were red, but his tears did not fall. As powerful as he was, he would not shed tears. In his opinion, that was the sign of a coward. Chi Yu Tang Zheng, I will not let you off. He gritted his teeth, and the anger in his eyes seemed to be able to burn everything. Do you think you can completely defeat me like this? No, I will make a comeback. He thought of Yi Meiyu, who was in the Mi ring, and let her out. Yi Meiyu was extremely weak, and it took her a lot of effort to stabilize her body. She looked around and asked in a daze. We escaped. She had seen how powerful Chi Yu was and was deeply shocked. The fear in her heart was like a stormy sea, almost completely engulfing her. We're safe, Wuxia said in a deep voice. He felt a deep sense of disgust towards her reaction, especially the word escape. He was the #1 general under the Yellow Emperor, yet he had to escape. This was a great humiliation, and every time someone said it, it was like sprinkling salt on his wound. What should we do next? Yi Meiyu asked in a daze. I have a way, Wuxia said. Not only was he escaping, he was also thinking of a countermeasure. In the end, he finally thought of a way. You have a way? Yi Meiyu was overjoyed, her round eyes opened wide. What way? Master's soul not only fused with the Golden Crow's soul, he also has a wisp of his soul that exists in this world. Wuxia said. Yi Meiyu was shocked and really wanted to curse. If you had known earlier, why would you have spent so much effort to use the Golden Crow's soul to revive the Yellow Emperor? How could such a big commotion be hidden from others? Wasn't this courting death? Now that the entire army was annihilated, he remembered that there was another way. Wasn't this purely looking for trouble for himself? Yi Meiyu cursed in her heart, but she did not dare to say it out loud. It was true that Wuxia was a defeated general, but to deal with her, it was still a piece of cake. Wuxia swept a glance at Yi Meiyu and said, "You're blaming me for not using this method earlier, right?" "No." Yi Meiyu denied. Wuxia snorted coldly and said, "You think I don't want to use it? But the price may not be as small as today." Yi Meiyu's expression suddenly changed as she looked at Wuxia in fear. She thought to herself, if the price is even greater than this, what kind of price would it be? Now that the Yellow Emperor's former subordinates had been completely wiped out, the price was even greater than this. Could it be that Wuxia was going to suffer as well? Yi Meiyu was shocked by her own thoughts and looked at him in shock. Wuxia continued, "Master still has a strand of remnant soul left in this world. This news isn't known to many, and most of the people who knew are no longer here. In the past, I didn't want to use this method because I had some misgivings. But now, it's different. We have no other choice but to use this method." Since it was a bad plan, it definitely wasn't a good one. Yi Meiyu's heart instantly jumped. She stared at him with sparkling eyes, looking forward to what the so-called bad plan was. "This is a bad plan, but it's also the only way. I need to use your power." Wuxia looked at her with a burning gaze and said in an earth-shattering manner, "Use my power?" Yi Meiyu pointed at herself in disbelief. Although she was very narcissistic and conceited, she still had some self-awareness. Even Wuxia was so afraid. What could she do? Could she be cannon fodder? She became more and more nervous. "Yes, you have inherited the power of the nightmare. The traceless dream divine ability is very powerful, but you have not cultivated it to the peak. I need you to use the traceless dream divine ability to deal with someone," Wuxia said in a deep voice. "Who? Inner demons?" Yi Meiyu frowned and asked, "Who are the inner demons?" "A very powerful person who is proficient in mental attacks." Wuxia still had a lingering fear in his heart. Although tens of thousands of years had passed, when he thought of the inner demons, many images would still flash through his mind, causing his heart to palpitate. The inner demons were people that even the Yellow Emperor and Qiyu could not kill, so of course he would be afraid. Proficient in mental attacks? Yi Meiyu was surprised. She understood a little. No wonder she said that she needed to use her power, because she was also proficient in mental attacks. But there's one thing, no one can kill him, Wuxia added. These words were like a heavy hammer that ruthlessly struck Yi Meiyu's heart. Yi Meiyu was dumbstruck. She was so shocked that she couldn't speak. Unkillable? Are you kidding me? Is there anyone in this world who can't be killed? I don't expect you to be able to hurt him. I just want to use your power to restrain him, Wuxia said earnestly. Yi Meiyu was a little angry. Wasn't this purely because he didn't believe in her ability? As if seeing through her thoughts, Wuxia said indifferently, "When you see the inner demons, you will naturally understand how powerful he is. I don't believe that there is anyone in this world who is more powerful than me in mental attacks." Yi Meiyu was indignant. Even an expert like the Saint King was unable to completely nullify her attacks. She found it hard to imagine who else could do it. "Then where are we going now?" Yi Meiyu asked impatiently, as if she wanted to compete with the so-called inner demons. The inner demons were suppressed in a deep abyss back then. According to the current geography, they should be in the 10,000 huge mountains. Wuxia speculated, when the inner demons were suppressed, a wisp of Master's remnant soul was left behind to suppress the inner demons at all times. Our goal is this wisp of remnant soul, and once we obtain the remnant soul, Master will have a chance to revive. After tens of thousands of years, there were too many variables. Wuxia could only deduce a rough location. Once your injuries are healed, we will go to the 10,000 huge mountains. Wuxia made a decision. Neither of them knew that the inner demons were no longer in the abyss and had already been successfully revived. The Yellow Emperor's remnant soul had once attached itself to Tian Chanzi's body, But after Tian Chanzi gained the upper hand, the Yellow Emperor's remnant soul disappeared without a trace. That's not too difficult. We just have to be on guard against the inner demons. Once we obtain this wisp of remnant soul, no one else will be our match. Yi Meiyu said casually. Mo Xie warned him, don't underestimate the inner demons. He's really not as simple as you think. Sai, you'll know when you see him. Our mission is to take Master's remnant soul away, and we can't release the inner demons. Otherwise, it will be difficult to suppress him again. Mo Xie did not want the inner demons to escape. That would be even more chaotic. They were already mortal enemies with Qi Yu, so there was no way for them to join forces to suppress the inner demons again. This might give the inner demons an opportunity to take revenge for being suppressed all those years ago. Mo Xie would never allow this to happen. The two of them were ill-informed and did not know about Tang Zheng's death. However, the Azure Dragon Palace was well-informed and had already received the news. When Lord Ji Wuxiang heard the news, he was also extremely shocked. He ordered the Grand Mali to confirm it again and again, and in the end, the news of his death was true. Ji Wuxiang no longer had any doubts and let out a long sigh. He is one of the most talented people I have ever met. Back then, when I was unable to communicate with the power of the stars, he was already able to do it. If not for him, heavenly chess would not have been able to succeed so quickly, and he played a part in it. I never thought that he would die just like that. Because the Li Palace was taken away by Tang Zheng, the Grand Mali hated Tang Zheng to the bone, and said with relief, it's a pity that he did not die in our hands, and Li Xiaotian, that traitor, also died this time. The past is like smoke. Let it go, there is no need to be too attached to it. Ji Wuxiang said calmly. Yes. Grand Mali humbly accepted the advice. This time, they died in Qi Yu's hands, which means that Qi Yu's strength is already unfathomable. If we were to compete with him... Grand Mali did not finish her words, and looked at Ji Wuxiang with a burning gaze. Her meaning was self-evident. She was worried about whether Ji Wuxiang had any hope of winning against Qi Yu. Ji Wuxiang smiled faintly and said, facts speak louder than words. From his attitude, it could be seen that he was very confident. Grand Mali was relieved, and did not forget to flatter. My lord has already achieved great success, and can communicate with the power of the stars to control heavenly chess. Qi Yu is definitely not your opponent. Ji Wuxiang's expression did not change and said lightly, I also heard a bit of news. This time Tang Zheng's residence was attacked, and there are rumors outside that they are trying to lead ordinary people and cultivators against each other? Ji Wuxiang's tone was very calm, as if he was talking about daily life, but Grandma Li's heart skipped a beat, and she nervously lowered her head, saying, I ordered my subordinates to do this. I did not deliberately hide it from my lord, but I felt that this matter was too small, and there was no need to disturb my lord's seclusion. During this period of time, Ji Wuxiang was in seclusion, and Grandma Li had to report all the major events outside the door. Although Ji Wuxiang did not respond, she still insisted on doing so. However, she did not report this matter to Ji Wuxiang. She was puzzled. The lord had just come out of seclusion, so how did he know about this matter? Could it be that he had other sources of information, and someone else had tipped him off? She did not dare to ask this question, and her heart was in turmoil. Ji Wuxiang quietly looked at Grandma Li, who lowered her head even more, and her waist almost bent to the ground. Ji Wuxiang stretched out his hand and placed it on top of Grandma Li's head. Grandma Li trembled all over, as if she had been paralyzed, and did not move. From now on, you are not allowed to do this again. Yes, I won't dare. Grandma Li was relieved. With Ji Wuxiang saying so, this matter could be considered over. This matter is superfluous, and it will be easy to give the game away. In this world, there are other forces besides us, so why should we be the first to stand out? Let the cultivators fight among themselves, and then we will come out to clean up the mess. Isn't that better? Ji Wuxiang said patiently. Grandma Li finally raised her head and said doubtfully, the Yellow Emperor's old subordinates were almost completely wiped out. Who else can fight against Qi Yu? If we let him grow stronger, wouldn't it be very disadvantageous for us? Chapter 1353. He held Li Xiaotian's body in his arms, looking at her closed eyes. Tang Zheng's heart felt like it fell into an ice cave. He took a deep breath and stabilized his mind. It was midnight, the time of the day when the yin qi was the strongest. Whoosh! A gust of cold wind blew, making people's hair stand on end. Tang Zhang was in the middle of the cold wind, as if he did not see it. His eyes did not move away from Li Xiaotian's body. Suddenly, a dark door opened in front of him. 2 ghost messengers walked out. The ghost messengers looked around and said, "This human world seems different from yesterday. At midnight, the yang qi is so strong. If it was stronger, we wouldn't need to come to the human world to capture souls." Yes, I don't know what happened in the human world. Such a big change happened. Unlike our ghost world, under the rule of Dizong of Goguryeo, we are thriving. One day, the human world will be left far behind by our ghost world. The ghost messengers proudly said. Tang Zhang heard these words, but was indifferent. He knew that the strong yang qi must be because the soul of the golden crow rose to the sky, so there was an extraordinary amount of yang qi descending to the earth. Even after a day, this yang qi did not dissipate. Let's capture this soul first. We still have to capture other souls. The ghost messengers took out the token. A burst of light bloomed from the token. Li Xiaotian's soul flew out from her body. A black light flashed in the ghost messenger's hand, and a chain flew out, directly toward Li Xiaotian's soul. Tang Zhang still did not raise his head, but it was as if there were eyes on the top of his head. He suddenly reached out and grabbed the chain. The ghost messengers were pulled by Tang Zhang's strength, staggered, and almost fell to the ground, pale with fright, shouted, "Who is it?" They thought it was a sneak attack by other experts, but when they looked, they found out that it was the man holding the body. The ghost messengers looked at each other. In the past, when capturing souls, they had never encountered any obstacles, but this time it was so strange. "He can see us," one of the ghost messengers exclaimed. "Of course he can see, otherwise how could he grab our soul lock?" Another ghost messengers unhappily said. "Then what should we do? Do you need me to teach you that?" The ghost messenger's face became serious as he glared at Tang Zhang and said, "We don't care who you are, but you dare to obstruct the ghost messenger's work. Do you know what this means?" Tang Zhang finally raised his head and looked at Li Xiaotian's soul floating in the air. Her soul and consciousness were still drifting and had yet to regain consciousness. "You want to capture her soul. Did you ask for my permission?" Tang Zhang asked with a cold expression. The ghost messengers looked at each other as if they had just heard the funniest joke in the world. They jokingly said, "This is a matter of course." "Do you think you are the Dizong of Goguryeo? I know this is your duty. Otherwise, I wouldn't have wasted so much time talking to you. With me here, you have no way to capture her soul. I will go with her to the ghost realm and then see the Dizong of Goguryeo." Tang Zhang did not make things difficult for the ghost messengers and directly said, "What, you actually want to go with us to the ghost realm? You are seeking your own death, do you know that?" The ghost messengers laughed. Tang Zhang declined to comment. Another ghost messenger said, "He must have been too sad and turned into an idiot. Wait a minute. How does he know about the Dizong of Goguryeo?" Hearing him say it so smoothly, could it be that he knows the Dizong of Goguryeo? He is a living person. How could he know the Dizong of Goguryeo? He must have heard about the Dizong of Goguryeo from us and deliberately came to scare us. Yes, it must be like that. Now that there are more and more cultivators in the human world, we actually met this time. Everything has a beginning. In the future, there will be more situations like this. We might as well take him back and let the Dizong of Goguryeo make the decision. In the future, we can also do things according to the rules. Don't be caught in the middle. We are not human to begin with. Cough cough. I don't often come to the human world. I learned it from them. I'm used to it. Tang Zhang ignored the ghost messengers and directly said, "Let's go. Then we will capture your soul. But I warn you, once your soul goes to the ghost realm, you will die. Don't even think about returning to the human world." The ghost messengers reminded. Tang Zhang did not say a word. He put the body in his arms back into Sumeru world. With a wave of his hand, Li Xiaotian's soul flew down. He softly said, "Li Xiaotian, let's go to the ghost realm together." With that, he strode into the ghost gate. Li Xiaotian seemed to be attracted by a huge force. His feet did not touch the ground as he lightly flew into the ghost gate. The 2 ghost messengers stood in place, staring at each other in shock. They exclaimed, "He actually dared to use his body to pass through the ghost gate to the ghost realm." The human body was afraid of the ghost realm's yin qi. Once the yin qi was produced, it would be beyond redemption and death was certain. Tang Zheng's action completely subverted the ghost messenger's understanding. He is willing to die. Why are we worried about him? Hurry up and go in. Don't let him go too far. The ghost messengers hurriedly jumped into the ghost gate. The scene between heaven and earth changed dramatically. The sky was even lower, gloomy and gloomy. The cold wind blew, making people shudder. Tang Zheng stood in place. Li Xiaotian's soul finally stepped on the ground. When he came to the ghost realm, his soul seemed to have returned home. It was almost the same as a human in the human world. Li Xiaotian's confused eyes lit up little by little. His chaotic brain also became clear. After a person died, the memory of his life would still exist. After drinking Meng Po's soup, he would forget the memory of his life and become a simple ghost. Tang Zheng, is that you? Li Xiaotian screamed in shock. Her eyes were full of disbelief. Tang Zheng showed a bitter smile, took her hand and said, "It's me." When the soul was in the human world, it was illusory and had no physical body. Once the soul came to the ghost realm, it would become a physical body. Therefore, Tang Zheng held Li Xiaotian's hand. "Didn't I die?" Li Xiaotian asked doubtfully. "How can I meet you? Could it be that you—" Li Xiaotian covered her mouth with her hand. Her seductive appearance was involuntarily revealed. It was very moving. Even after her death, her every frown, every smile, and every gesture exuded boundless charm. "I'm not dead. I want to save you and bring you back to life." Tang Zheng directly stated his purpose. He did not hide anything. "Save me? If I'm dead, you can still save me?" This was hard for Li Xiaotian to imagine. Tang Zheng nodded heavily. Saving a dead person was not only to bring the soul back to the body. In that way, he could imprison Li Xiaotian's soul and not let her leave his body without going to the ghost realm. He had to go to the ghost realm and seek help from the Dizong of Goguryeo. Only then could he be reborn. As for Qi Yu and the inner demons, these powerhouses from tens of thousands of years ago, their souls had been cultivated to a very powerful state. As long as their souls were not destroyed, they would always have a way to be reborn. Therefore, when they killed the enemy, they would always destroy the enemy's soul. Only then could they be considered to have completely killed the enemy. When the Saint Monarch died in battle, Xie did the same. When the Ganzhou sword pierced his body and ended his life, his soul was also completely destroyed, and his body and soul were completely destroyed. This was also why there were very few cultivators' souls in the ghost realm. The cultivator's soul was too powerful. Once they came to the ghost realm, they would often cause chaos in the ghost realm. The ghost realm was happy to see this and did not like these troublemakers. The two ghost messengers also heard Tang Zheng's words. They couldn't help but laugh. Arrogant words, the dead can't be brought back to life. Haven't you heard of this sentence? You actually want to bring the dead back to life. You're going against the heavens. It won't work at all. We've been here for so many years, but we've never seen such a thing. Yes, this is a fool's dream. SK. Today's mission is really interesting. We'd like to see how he can bring people back to life. Let's go. Don't just talk about old times. There will be plenty of opportunities in the future. The ghost messengers urged. Li Xiaotian's face was very ugly. She looked at Tang Zheng with worry and said, "Isn't this very difficult? How about we just forget about it?" Tang Zheng said with an unquestionable tone, "Don't listen to the ghost messenger's nonsense. What kind of difficulty is there? Even if there is a difficulty, I will overcome it. I must save you." Li Xiaotian's lips curled into a smile. She looked at him and said, "Why are you so good to me? You're even better to me. What I do for you is not even 1/10,000th of what you do for me. You gave your life to me. No matter what I do, I will never be able to make it up to you." Tang Zheng said emotionally. "No." Li Xiaotian shook her head. Her finger covered Tang Zheng's mouth. "What I do for you is of my own accord. I don't need you to make it up to me." "I know your heart." Tang Zheng nodded. If at this time he still didn't understand her feelings, then he would be a complete idiot. He couldn't help but grab her hand. Li Xiaotian's eyes were full of shyness, but she didn't lower her head. She looked at him affectionately. Their eyes met. Tang Zheng's heart was also filled with tenderness. He couldn't help but bend down and lightly touch her lips. It was very cold. Tang Zheng's heart was burning hot. He hugged her waist. Li Xiaotian lightly trembled. She straightened her body, then immediately softened and snuggled into his embrace. She had fantasized about this scene countless times. Her dream became reality, but it was in the ghost realm. But her heart was still incomparably happy, sweet and satisfied. Now even if my soul scatters, I am perfectly satisfied. I have no regrets. Li Xiaotian said emotionally. Don't say such discouraging words. You'll be fine, Tang Zheng advised. Looking at the two of them being lovey-dovey, the ghost envoys felt a sense of unreality. Was this the ghost realm? Why weren't these two afraid at all? They treated this place like their own home. This is the ghost realm, not your human world. The ghost envoys urged. Tang Zheng rolled his eyes. He stared at the two unromantic guys. Holding Li Xiaotian's hand, he walked away with large strides. Hey, wait a minute. The two ghost envoys quickly chased after them. Their cultivation was not as good as Tang Zheng's. They used all their strength to barely keep up with Tang Zheng's pace. Chapter 1354. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Let bygones be bygones. Forget about your past life. A voice that seemed to have magic poured into their ears. Tang Zheng's head trembled. This voice has a bewitching power. Whose voice is it? This is the ghost realm. Even if he knows the Dizong of Goguryeo, he can't let his guard down. There is a saying that it is easy to see the king of hell, but difficult to deal with the little ghosts. The Dizong of Goguryeo is too high-end, those below may not buy it. So, unless there is no other choice, he will not resort to violence. After all, because of the relationship with the Dizong of Goguryeo, he can't casually make a scene like before. It's just that, he has heard this voice before, so he is quite surprised. There is a fog in front, hazy, can't see the road ahead. The ghost messenger seems to have long been used to it, and did not explain. Tang Zheng simply did not ask, and just followed the other party's footsteps. Li Xiaotian grabbed Tang Zheng's hand, whispered, This ghost realm is so strange, it is very different from the human world. Tang Zheng softly said, It is two different worlds, of course there are differences. What is that voice? Li Xiaotian blankly asked. There seems to be a kind of magic, deeply attracting me. Tang Zheng also felt surprised, but not as deep as her, said, Don't think too much, I am here. Li Xiaotian held his arm, glued to him. She felt that this ghost realm does not seem to be so bad, at least with his company, no matter how bad the environment is, she does not mind. Walking into the fog, they can't see the surroundings clearly. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Let bygones be bygones. Forget about your past life. Suddenly, the voice sounded again. Li Xiaotian subconsciously quickened her pace. Tang Zheng found something strange, quickly pulled her hand, asked, What's wrong? Li Xiaotian said, That voice is getting more and more attractive to me. Tang Zheng immediately realized that things were not as simple as he thought. He was on full alert. The ghost messenger noticed the difference between the two of them and couldn't help but reveal an unfathomable smile. Creak, creak. The sound of footsteps suddenly changed. Tang Zheng was shocked and quickly looked down. He didn't know when, but the floor under his feet had turned into wood. He looked around and saw that there was a thick fog all around. He subconsciously took a step to the left, but his foot missed. He quickly retracted it. We're on the bridge? Tang Zheng asked in a deep voice. The ghost messenger's smile became even more intense as he laughed out loud. Of course we are on the bridge. If you step out, you will be consigned to eternal damnation. Beyond redemption? Of course, do you know what kind of place this is? The ghost messenger changed from his usual self and said proudly, as if he wanted to give this outsider a good lesson. No matter where it is, it's all the same to me, Tang Zheng said fearlessly. The ghost messenger curled his lips and jokingly said, Shameless boasting. Coming to the bridge of helplessness, you still dare to be so arrogant. Bridge of helplessness? Tang Zheng was surprised. This name was not unfamiliar to him. It appeared in many folklore. The bridge of helplessness was accompanied by Meng Po's soup. Could there really be a Meng Po holding a bowl of soup on this bridge? He immediately remembered the voice just now. Could it be Meng Po's voice? That's why it has a bewitching effect on souls. Li Xiaotian tightly grabbed Tang Zheng's arm and worriedly said, I don't want to drink Meng Po's soup. I don't want to forget the things of this life. I don't want to forget you. This life. Hee, that's already the previous life. If you don't forget, how can you start a new life? The previous voice sounded again. An old woman with a stooped body walked out from the fog in front of them. Meng Pa! Tang Zheng exclaimed. There really was a Meng Pa. Why didn't he meet her before in the ghost realm? He didn't know that when he came to the ghost realm before, he never took the normal road. This road was specially made for ghost envoys to lead new souls. This bridge of helplessness was the only way. You really do know the older students. Hee. Meng Po's face was full of wrinkles. She supported herself with a walking stick, but her laughter gave people a creepy feeling. You're still a living person. You actually came here. Strange. Meng Po's laughter came to an abrupt end. Her pair of small eyes were half open and half closed, staring straight at Tang Zheng. The two ghost envoys remembered that after walking such a long distance, this person didn't have the slightest discomfort. This was not normal. There was actually a living person who didn't fear the erosion of Yin Qi? Yes, what's the matter with you? It's been so long and everything is still normal? The ghost envoys stared at Tang Zheng and asked. Tang Zheng turned a deaf ear and didn't answer this question. Meng Pa looked at the ghost envoys and meaningfully said, You two actually brought a living person. I don't know if you're lucky or unlucky. Meng Pa, this kid insisted on coming. He's a cultivator. We can't do anything about it. The ghost envoys quickly explained. Meng Po's level seemed to be higher than them. Seeing the ghost envoy's expression that was uglier than crying, she didn't move at all. She faintly said, So what if he's a cultivator? In the ghost realm, he can't jump around. The ghost envoys nodded like they were pounding garlic. Meng Po's words are true. Since you've entered the ghost realm, you must drink my bowl of Meng Po's soup. Only by forgetting your past life can you cross this bridge of helplessness and enter the heart of my ghost realm. Meng Pa reached out and a bowl of black soup appeared in her hand. Wow, it smells so good. Li Xiaotian couldn't help but cry out. He took a deep breath and had a very intoxicated expression. Tang Zheng didn't smell anything. Instead, he looked at the pitch-black liquid and felt disgusted. No one wants to drink your Meng Po's soup. Tang Zheng refused. Meng Pa looked at Tang Zheng with a smile. Her long and narrow eyes revealed a faint light. She said, You're a living person so you don't need to drink it for the time being. But she's a living soul so she must drink this bowl of Meng Po's soup. She won't drink it. Tang Zheng glanced at Li Xiaotian who seemed to be intoxicated. He quickly pulled her into his arms, as if he was afraid that she couldn't resist the temptation and drank Meng Po's soup. Meng Po's smile filled her cheeks, but it gave people a gloomy and terrifying feeling. If you don't drink, you can't cross this bridge of helplessness. What if I insist on crossing? Unless you cross from outside the bridge, I naturally won't stop you. Meng Po's eyes were unfathomable. Tang Zheng subconsciously looked outside the bridge. In the thick fog, he couldn't see clearly at all. It was dead silent, giving people an ominous feeling. Haha, outside the bridge is the river Styx. No one can cross the river Styx. If you jump, only death awaits. Ghost Messenger laughed. Meng Po's eyes flashed with a trace of pride. Of course, she was more clear about all of this, so she deliberately made things difficult for Tang Zheng. River Styx. Tang Zheng's thick eyebrows raised. He remembered. He once fell into the river Styx and quickly sank. The river Styx's water can also devour souls. Whether it's a ghost or a living soul, it's difficult to resist the power of the river Styx's water. If it weren't for the four symbols venerable not being afraid of the river Styx's water, Tang Zheng would have been buried in the river Styx long ago. Of course, he wouldn't take it lightly. The bridge of helplessness was the bridge to cross the river Styx. Apart from the bridge of helplessness, there was nothing else that could cross the river Styx. Every living soul that came to the ghost realm must cross the bridge of helplessness. Meng Pa kept looking at Tang Zheng. Seeing his reaction, she asked in surprise, You actually know about the river Styx? Strange, you're a living person, but you seem to know a lot about the ghost realm. Tang Zheng ignored her surprise and asked in a deep voice, What if I have to cross the bridge of helplessness? Meng Po's big hand moved forward. Meng Po's soup was almost in front of Li Xiaotian, deeply attracting her. Then let her drink my bowl of Meng Po's soup. No. Tang Zheng shook his head, resolute and decisive. Then there's no other way. I know the Dizong of Goguryeo. This time, I'm here to ask him for help. Tang Zheng didn't want to be entangled with these little ghosts. He directly explained his purpose of coming, and even pointed out the Dizong of Goguryeo, hoping that the other party wouldn't make things difficult for him. Mengpa wasn't frightened by the name of the Dizong of Goguryeo. She laughed. It seems that you really know a lot about the ghost realm. You even know the name of the new master of the ghost realm. The ghost messenger looked at Tang Zheng with ridicule and said, Mengpa, you don't know how arrogant he is. He actually wants to find the Dizong of Goguryeo to resurrect this woman. Mengpa was stunned for a moment. She turned pale with fright and said, Really? That's really not an ordinary arrogance. How can we let such a daring person go and disturb the Dizong of Goguryeo? He's so busy every day. How can he have the time to deal with such an arrogant lunatic? Yes, that's reasonable. So we'll have to trouble Mengpa to make a move. The ghost messenger's face was thick, and his smile was uglier than crying. Tang Zheng sighed helplessly. He brought out the Dizong of Goguryeo, this big signboard, but it didn't have any effect. This was something he never thought would happen. Mengpa raised her head. Her stooped body also straightened. She glared at Tang Zheng and said, This bridge of helplessness is controlled by me, Mengpa. If you want to go over, then you'll have to step over my body. Li Xiaotian's heart tightened. He grabbed onto Tang Zheng and asked, What do we do? Her cultivation was not low when she was alive. She had a divine weapon. But now she was only a ghost. She did not have any strength. She could not help Tang Zheng, so her heart was nervous. Tang Zheng patted her hand to comfort her and said, Don't worry. I'll take care of everything. Holding Li Xiaotian's hand, he suddenly took a step forward and approached Mengpa. This is your request, he said aggressively. Then I can only fulfill your wish, Mengpa said. Mengpa was stunned for a moment. She seemed to think that this was a big joke. After a while she came back to her senses and said, Then this bridge of helplessness will have one more soul. Obviously, Mengpa wanted to kick Tang Zheng off the bridge of helplessness and bury him in the river Styx. Tang Zheng coldly snorted. He took large strides and directly crashed into Mengpa's body. Mengpa did not retreat. The walking stick in her hand flew up and turned into a black light. In an instant, it turned into a huge sinister ghost head. It bit towards Tang Zheng's neck. Chapter 1355. The ferocious ghost head directly exploded, turning into wisps of yin qi. It came quickly, but it also disappeared quickly. With this move, it was obvious who was superior. Mengpa was stunned for a moment. The opponent's strength far exceeded her expectations. She did not stop there. With a scream, the dissipated yin qi once again gathered, turning into 9 ghost heads, front, back, left, and right, attacking Tang Zheng together. Tang Zheng's expression did not change. He did not even let go of Li Xiaotian's hand. His big hand fearlessly grabbed at the ghost head. Boom! A ball of flame rose from his palm. When it caught the ghost head, it immediately let out a sharp scream. The true fire was extremely effective against these ghost heads. Mengpa's expression finally changed. She staggered back. Her big hand grabbed behind her, pulling off the cloak on her body. The cloak flew out, covering the true fire. The true fire was extinguished. Tang Zheng's feet flashed. He approached Mengpa, his finger pressed against her hazy eyebrows. As long as he breathed in and out, Mengpa would undoubtedly die. Mengpa seemed to have been immobilized. She immediately became motionless, looking at Tang Zheng in horror. You can't stop us, Tang Zheng calmly said. The other 2 ghost messengers also retreated in panic. Only now did they realize that the guy they didn't put in their eyes was actually so powerful. Even Mengpa wasn't his opponent, so they were just sending food to him. This battle from beginning to end only took a few dozen seconds, deeply shocking Mengpa. Who exactly are you? Mengpa asked, still in shock. I said I was looking for the Dizong of Goguryeo. The Dizong of Goguryeo is not here. Mengpa hesitated for a moment and said. Tang Zheng furrowed his brows. Seeing this, the 2 ghost messengers nodded like they were pounding garlic and said, Yes, the Dizong of Goguryeo is not here. This is King Songjiang's territory. King Songjiang? Tang Zheng faltered slightly upon hearing this. He was no stranger to this name. After all, he was the King Yenluo of the First Court, a man who had once stood toe-to-toe with the King Yenluo of Hell. Moreover, in the 18 levels of Hell, King Songjiang had personally witnessed how Tang Zheng and the Dizong of Goguryeo worked together to eliminate the Hell King and suppress Azura. Since it was an old acquaintance, things would be even easier. Then take me to see Songjiang Wang. Tang Zheng changed his mind. There was no point in tangling with these brats. He went straight to the point and looked for Songjiang Wang. You know our King Songjiang too? Meng Pa and the ghost messenger were dumbfounded. When this kid first said that he knew the Dizong of Goguryeo, they all snorted disdainfully, thinking that he was just using the tiger's skin as a banner. After all, the Dizong of Goguryeo was too far out of their reach. They were Songjiang Wang's subordinates, so their reverence for Songjiang Wang was more direct and stronger. Tang Zheng nodded. Of course I know him. I won't make things difficult for you. Take me to see King Songjiang Wang and everything will naturally become clear. Meng Pa and the ghost messenger looked at each other in dismay. This was a dragon crossing the river. With their strength, they could only bully a living soul. As for Tang Zheng, they didn't have the slightest bit of deterrence. If they angered him and threw them into the underworld river, then their souls would scatter and they wouldn't even have a chance to redress their grievances. All right. Meng Pa compromised. She clearly understood the principle of a wise man submits to circumstances. Tang Zheng nodded solemnly. This time, he had finally scared these brats. Otherwise, it would have been a waste of time. They walked across the bridge of helplessness together. The thick fog gradually dissipated, and the silhouette of a majestic city appeared in the distance. What is that? Li Xiaotian pointed and asked. That is Songjiang Wang City. Meng Pa said. That is King Songjiang Wang City. This entire region is under his jurisdiction. Tang Zheng added. This place seems like ancient times. There's actually such a city. Li Xiaotian exclaimed. The ghost realm and the ancient world of the human world are not much different. Tang Zheng said, look over there. Those are ghost citizens. They are just like the ordinary people of our human world. Li Xiaotian opened his eyes wide and spun around, admiring the scenery and local customs of this different world. After a person dies, their soul enters the ghost realm. A portion of them will reincarnate, while a portion will become these ghost citizens and settle down in the ghost realm. Tang Zheng explained with familiarity. Meng Pa and the ghost messenger were dumbfounded. Was this guy really a living person? How could he know the ghost realm like the back of his hand? They couldn't help but believe Tang Zheng's words. Maybe he really did know the big shots of the ghost realm. Immediately, they felt apprehensive. If he said a few bad words about them in front of King Songjiang Wang, then they would be in trouble. Don't look at how they were showing off just now. In reality, their positions weren't high. They were equivalent to the basic civil servants of the human world, or even crueler. A word from their superior could not only determine their future, but also their life and death. Their hearts were in a mess. Meng Pa finally mustered up her courage and carefully said, that was a misunderstanding. We didn't know your identity, so it ended up like this. The two ghost messengers put on a smile that was uglier than crying. They begged. Yes, we have eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. You are a great person and don't hold a grudge against us. Please let us go. Looking at their change from arrogance to deference, Li Xiaotian couldn't help but laugh. He looked at Tang Zheng with a burning gaze. Not only was he unhindered in the human world, countless people were in awe of him. In the ghost realm, he wasn't the least bit inferior. Meng Pa and the ghost messengers were afraid of him. Tang Zheng didn't smile and coldly said, I will naturally tell the truth. Aya, that won't do. You are a great person and don't hold a grudge against us. Please don't lower yourself to our level. The two ghost messengers fell to their knees in front of Tang Zheng and cried. Meng Pa was also terrified to the extreme. She was trembling with fear and her face was like a bitter gourd. Tang Zheng didn't mean to make things difficult for them. Seeing that he had scared them, this was considered a small punishment. He said, seeing that you are apologizing so sincerely, I will not bicker with you. Remember, be more polite to the living spirits in the future. Yes, yes. They nodded as if they had been pardoned. Along the way, many ghost citizens and ghost messengers on patrol looked at this group of people curiously. Especially since Tang Zhang was a living person, they could all see. There were even ghost messengers who took the initiative to ask, looking at Tang Zhang with unkind eyes. But with Meng Po's negotiation, these ghost messengers didn't interfere. They could only watch as they walked into Songjiang City. Li Xiaotian felt that she had really broadened her horizons, especially when she looked at the majestic city. In her impression, no matter which dynasty's city wall it was, it could not be compared to this. This was really too majestic. Songjiang City was completely different from the desolation outside the city. It was like two different worlds. It was very lively, ghost citizens were weaving together, and the noise rose and fell one after another. This was a replica of ancient times. There were shops, taverns, inns, and everything. Li Xiaotian was dazzled by the sight. There were even many special snacks, such as fried ghosts. One after another, ferocious ghosts were placed in a pot of oil. They were fried with crackling sounds, and their screams were even more chilling. Li Xiaotian, on the other hand, watched with relish and was not the slightest bit afraid. These ghosts were ghosts who had committed many crimes. After their souls were scattered, they became ghosts. They were fried by the vendors and then sold to the ghost citizens. It was said that they were very delicious and could increase one's strength. They were worth a lot. In the past, Tang Zhang came and went quickly, so he didn't have the leisure to care about these things. This time, it was an eye-opener. However, while fried ghosts were beneficial to the ghost citizens, they were harmful to Tang Zhang, a living person. So he and Li Xiaotian didn't try it. Following the smooth path that extended from the entrance of the city, they finally arrived in front of a magnificent palace. The ghost general on duty stopped them. Meng Po's face didn't seem to be very useful. After all, this palace was the core area, and Song Jiangwang lived inside. The ghost general didn't dare to be careless. Seeing that they were stopped again and again, Tang Zhang was furious. Were these guys that difficult to meet? Meng Po tried her best to persuade them, but the ghost general refused to let them pass. Meng Po looked resentfully at Tang Zhang, not knowing what to do next. Tang Zhang said in a low voice, "No need to trouble you guys. I'll let Song Jiangwang come out." After saying this, he soared into the air and floated in midair. He looked down at the majestic palace and took a deep breath before shouting, "Song Jiangwang!" There were many voices. Not only could it be heard in the palace, but it could also be heard in every corner of the city. This sound could be described as earth-shattering. Immediately, countless figures soared into the air, killing intent surging as they charged at Tang Zhang. In Song Jiangwang City, to shout out Song Jiangwang's name without any fear was a great disrespect. No one had ever dared to do this before. "Who is it? You dare to make a ruckus here?" A group of fiendish ghost generals and ghost kings surrounded Tang Zhang, their expressions unkind. Tang Zhang wasn't afraid at all. He casually looked at them and said, "Call Song Jiangwang out to see me. He's been hiding in the palace all day. Is it that hard to see him?" A ghost king stepped forward and shouted, "How bold. Our king's status is so high. Is he someone you can meet just because you want to?" "That's right. Where did you come from? You dare to speak such arrogant words. Are you looking to die? That's not right. He's a living person. He doesn't belong to our ghost realm." Suddenly, a ghost king looked at Tang Zhang in disbelief and cried out in alarm. The others seemed to have awoken from a dream. They all stared at Tang Zhang and said, "How could he be a human? A living person shouting at Song Jiangwang in their territory." This wasn't as simple as a provocation. Meng Po's legs went soft in fright and she almost fell to the ground. This time it was over. This person dared to be so arrogant. This was a great disrespect to Song Jiangwang. This kind of provocation was a capital offense. Then wouldn't she be an accomplice if she brought him here? She regretted it. She shouldn't have believed this person's words and brought them to Song Jiangwang's palace. Meng Po's face was ashen. She turned her head to look at Li Xiaotian. She discovered that the corners of her mouth were curled up into a smile. It was as if she didn't care about this at all. Were these two fellows stupid and bold? Were they heartless? They didn't even know that a disaster was imminent. Meng Po wished she could immediately sneak out. She turned her gaze and discovered that the two ghost envoys that were with her had already slipped away, pulling away from her. Chapter 1356. There were so many ghost generals and ghost kings, yet Tang Zheng didn't even put them in his eyes. Naturally, everyone was enraged. Mengpe even had thoughts of dying. This guy was really not afraid of death. She was really going to die because of him. There was no hope for her to live anymore. Bang! Mengpo's body went limp, and she fell to the ground softly. Her face was ashen, and her heart was dead. Just as the ghost generals were about to attack and completely cut Tang Zheng into pieces, a figure slowly rose from the palace and shouted, "Stop!" The ghost generals were shocked. They all looked up at the sky with reverence. At the same time, they cheered in their hearts. Zheng's gaze was like that of a dead person. He was dead for sure. Tang Zheng was also that figure. The corners of his mouth curled up and he said loudly, "Song Jiangwang, you've finally shown yourself." There was no trace of reverence in his voice. The others thought that Tang Zheng was dead for sure. After seeing Song Jiangwang, he didn't lower his head and even dared to call him by his name. Mengpe was so scared that she crawled on the ground. She raised her eyelids and glanced at Song Jiangwang. Then, she quickly lowered her head and trembled all over. On the bridge of helplessness, she could control the souls of the living, but in front of Song Jiangwang, she didn't even dare to think of resisting. Song Jiangwang was the master of this huge city. He could control the life and death of anyone. Not to mention a mere Mengpe, the other ghost kings and ghost generals didn't dare to act rashly. Yet this person dared to provoke him. If that wasn't courting death, then what was? Mengpe had already lost the ability to think. Her mind was blank, and her eyes were dull. Everyone looked at Song Jiangwang with burning eyes. They didn't know how he would react. Tang Zheng also had a smile that wasn't a smile. Song Jiangwang was stunned at first. Then he revealed a look of shock. He heard someone call him by his name in the palace. Of course, he was very angry, but he still felt that this voice was familiar. Song Jiangwang had always been cautious. Since he felt that this voice was familiar, and the other party was so unbridled, he rose to the sky. When he finally saw Tang Zheng's appearance, many memories flooded into his mind like a tidal wave. He immediately recalled the scenes in the 18 levels of hell. The Lord of the Underworld, the Shura, and the Dizong of Goguryeo had all appeared out of nowhere. After going through a series of battles, even with Song Jiangwang's strength, he could not do much. But there was one living person who was an exception. That was Tang Zheng. Not only had he fused with the King of Hell's Yama's seal, but he had also received the Ksitagarbha Sutra from Dizong of Goguryeo. Most importantly, he had actually taken the Azura with him. There was no doubt that this series of events had deeply shocked Song Jiangwang, especially the relationship between Tang Zheng and Dizong of Goguryeo, which made him very jealous. If he had such a good relationship with Dizong of Goguryeo, then King Yama would definitely be suppressed by him. In addition, it was also Tang Zheng who had fought for the promotion of the human realm to a great world. In short, although Tang Zheng was a living person, his influence in the world of spirits and souls was so great that no one could compare to him. Song Jiangwang was extremely smart. Of course, he knew very well that this person must not be provoked. He never thought that he would actually come to his territory without provoking him. His expression became unnatural. He said resentfully, "So it's you." The others were shocked. What? Song Jiangwang actually knew him? Could it be that he was not lying? Many people were confused and wondered about his status. Tang Zheng looked at Song Jiangwang with a smile that was not a smile and said, "Song Jiangwang, I trust you have been well since we last met. It is not easy to see you in the world of spirits and souls." Song Jiangwang smiled and said, "What are you saying? If you want to see me, just say the word. Why go through so much trouble? This is all because the people below have eyes but do not recognize Mount Tai." What? Did he hear wrongly? Song Jiangwang actually spoke to him in such a tone. Was this a dream? Song Jiangwang was the master of this city. Everyone had to listen to his orders. No one dared to disobey him. He was also rarely so amiable to others, especially under such circumstances. Shouldn't he be furious and then teach him a lesson? Everyone had a puzzled look on their faces. They were a little confused about the current situation. Hee, if you didn't come out, these people would have cut me into pieces. Tang Zheng said with a teasing smile. How can they be your opponent? Song Jiangwang said. Although he was not clear about Tang Zheng's current strength, No matter what his cultivation was, it would be troublesome to injure him. Dizong of Goguryeo would definitely not agree. How can a noble guest be refused at the door? Come into the palace with me. Song Jiangwang was very enthusiastic, as if he was an old friend who had not seen each other for many years. He affectionately pulled Tang Zheng and wanted to fly into the palace. Tang Zheng refused, saying, "I still have friends." He turned around and flew towards the entrance of the palace. Song Jiangwang suspiciously chased after him and landed at the entrance of the palace. The other ghost generals all knelt at his feet. Song Jiangwang acted as if he did not see anything and was curious about Di Zheng's every move. Suddenly, Li Xiaotian saw Tang Zheng walk to her side and hold her hand. What does a living soul have to do with him? Tang Zheng said. Noble guest? This person was actually a noble guest and not an enemy. When did Song Jiangwang have a noble guest in the human world? How come they did not know anything about it? They watched helplessly as they flew into the palace and stood there in a daze. They looked at each other, not knowing what to do. Unknowingly, Mengpa seemed to have been revived. She stood up again, but her face was still full of fear. However, her eyes no longer had the deathly gray from before. Her lips trembled as she muttered to herself, "Finally, I don't have to die." That brat really knows Song Jiangwang, and he's even a so-called noble guest. She did not dare to hope that Tang Zheng would say a few good words for her. She hurriedly left the palace and returned to her own bridge, wishing that none of this had happened. She was almost scared to death. In the palace, all the unrelated personnel retreated. Only Tang Zheng and Song Jiangwang were left in the large palace. With regards to Song Jiangwang's actions, Tang Zheng allowed him to do as he pleased and did not express any opinions. He had also guessed Song Jiangwang's intentions. He was definitely afraid that Tang Zheng would say something out of line and embarrass him, causing him to lose face in front of his subordinates. Both parties sat down together. Song Jiangwang smiled and said, "I wonder what business do you have with me?" Tang Zheng did not feign civility and directly said, "I need to bring her back to life." Bring her back to life? Song Jiangwang was shocked. His eyes widened as he stared straight at Li Xiaotian. Ever since he became the first king of hell, he had never heard of such a thing. Back then, Yi Xuanji could be resurrected because his soul was captured by the ghost realm for questioning. It was not because his life was over. Li Xiaotian was truly dead. He still wants to bring her back to life? Song Jiangwang's expression turned serious. He directly said, "That's impossible." Why is it impossible? There has never been such a precedent. Precedents are meant to be set. Tang Zheng did not back down. Li Xiaotian pressed on. Tang Zheng did not back down. She felt warmth in her heart, and couldn't help but grasp Tang Zheng's hand tightly. She also knew that all of this would be difficult, but hearing it from Song Jiangwang's mouth, she felt that her hopes were even slimmer. Song Jiangwang saw that Tang Zheng did not have the slightest intention of backing down, and his heart was also very shocked. He was determined. However, Song Jiangwang still firmly shook his head. "Anyway, with my strength it's impossible to do this." "Then who can do it?" Tang Zheng asked. Song Jiangwang thought for a while and said, "In this ghost realm, only the Dizong of Goguryeo may be able to do it, but I dare not guarantee it." Tang Zheng secretly nodded. He did not expect Song Jiangwang to be able to help. He came to the ghost realm to find the Dizong of Goguryeo. "Then where is the Dizong of Goguryeo?" Tang Zheng asked. Song Jiangwang wanted to say something but hesitated, as if there was something that was difficult to say. Tang Zheng frowned and said, "Is there something that you can't say?" Song Jiangwang smiled embarrassedly and said more doubtfully than crying, "If it were anyone else, I would definitely not tell them this news. But you are different. You are an important guest of mine, Song Jiangwang. Of course, I will not hide it from you." "Then hurry up and say it." Tang Zheng was a little impatient. Song Jiangwang was taking too long. "The Dizong of Goguryeo is missing." Missing? In an instant, Tang Zheng's eyes widened in surprise, and he stared at Song Jiangwang in disbelief, his gaze extremely sharp. Song Jiangwang met his gaze and said, "Why would I lie to you? Ever since the ghost realm was downgraded to a small world, the Dizong of Goguryeo went missing." "Isn't he the lord of the ghost realm? How could he go missing?" "The Dizong of Goguryeo is indeed the lord of the ghost realm, but he does not directly lead it. The power of the ghost realm is still the same as before, but there are some slight changes. Song Jiangwang explained. Tang Zheng was deep in thought. The Dizong of Goguryeo was indeed different from others. He was not attached to power, so it was not surprising that he did not directly lead the ghost realm. But why would he go missing for no reason? Is there really no clue at all? Tang Zheng asked unwillingly. Song Jiangwang shook his head regretfully. Actually, you also know the situation in the ghost realm. If they knew the whereabouts of the Dizong of Goguryeo, who knows how many kings of hell would try to curry favor with him? This sentence was not false. The Dizong of Goguryeo's position was too high. His decision would affect the situation in the ghost realm, as well as the future of the various forces. If they could build a relationship with the Dizong of Goguryeo, all the kings of hell would spare no effort to do so. Tang Zheng stared at Song Jiangwang without blinking. Song Jiangwang's eyes were open, and he had no intention of hiding anything. Tang Zheng observed for a long time. In the end, he confirmed that Song Jiangwang was telling the truth. The Dizong of Goguryeo had really gone missing. Then, where could he go to find the Dizong of Goguryeo? Since Song Jiangwang said that there was no way to bring Li Xiaotian back to life, the other kings of hell would not have any good ideas. Therefore, it was useless to look for the other kings of hell. He could only look for the Dizong of Goguryeo. This time, he was at a dead end. Chapter 1357. Song Jiangwang chuckled bitterly. He didn't expect Tang Zheng to be so stubborn. He didn't know what to do next. Tang Zheng's eyes grew resolute as he stared intently at Song Jiangwang. You're a King Yen Luo of hell, so you're definitely more informed than I am. Don't tell me you really don't have any clues at all? Qin Ye's sharp gaze caused Song Jiangwang's heart to skip a beat, and he thought to himself nervously, this kid's aura is completely different from the last time we met. It actually gives me a sense of apprehension. Just what level has his cultivation increased to? Song Jiangwang knew Tang Zheng's true strength, so he didn't dare to provoke him. Under the gaze of that pair of eyes that seemed to be able to see right through his soul, he replied guiltily, it's not like we don't have any clues at all. What clues? Tang Zheng's heart stirred, and he immediately asked. Song Jiangwang wasn't in a hurry to answer. Truth be told, it's not just me. The other kings of hell are also trying their best to track down the whereabouts of the Dizong of Goguryeo. All of them have more or less received some information. If we can gather all of this information together, we might just be able to find the Dizong of Goguryeo. Tang Zheng was stunned. He didn't expect Song Jiangwang to say something like this. Isn't this the same as gathering all of the information of the 10 kings of hell? This wasn't an easy task. After all, Tang Zheng was an outsider. Even though because of the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, his position was extraordinary, but when it came to important matters, not everyone in the 10 Yama kings would listen to him. At the very least, the King Yen Luo might not listen to him. If not for Tang Zheng, the King Yen Luo wouldn't have been relegated to second place and become a subordinate to the Dizong of Goguryeo. This was equivalent to Tang Zheng dragging the King Yen Luo of hell down from his throne. The King Yen Luo of hell was already benevolent enough to not seek him out for revenge, so why would he still provide him with information? Tang Zheng was well aware of this. But since things had already come to this, he had no other choice but to grab hold of this slim chance of survival. Are you sure this method will work? Tang Zheng asked. Song Jiangwang hurriedly waved his hand. I can't guarantee anything. It's just that according to my analysis, this is a feasible method. Okay, let's do that. Tang Zheng made the final decision. Song Jiangwang's eyes lit up. He didn't seem to reject this decision and said with great interest, Then what do you plan to do? Send a message to all the other kings of hell. Tell them to come here. I want to ask them for information on the Dizong of Goguryeo. Tang Zheng thought for a while and said, I can pass on the message, but whether or not they will come is beyond my control. Song Jiangwang said, Tell them that I am looking for the Dizong of Goguryeo and ask them to cooperate. I will remember this friendship. Song Jiangwang gave him a deep look and said, All right then. Of course, Song Jiangwang was willing to pass on this message. The other kings of hell weren't fools. They knew very well that Tang Zheng and the Dizong of Goguryeo had a close relationship. This time, Song Jiangwang was the one who passed on the message. This meant that he had a close relationship with Tang Zheng. This was also a way to get closer to the Dizang of Goguryeo. At the very least, in the eyes of the other kings of hell, Song Jiangwang and the Dizang of Goguryeo's relationship would improve. If anyone dared to deal with Song Jiangwang in the future, they would have to think twice. Only the wise and far-sighted King Song Jiang would be able to come up with such a meticulous plan. Tang Zheng wasn't in the mood to pay attention to these twists and turns. All his thoughts were on Li Xiaotian. Then I'll send someone to bring you to rest. For the next few days, you can stay here in peace. If you have any needs, feel free to ask. I'll do my best to satisfy you. Song Jiangwang said resolutely and heroically. Tang Zheng had no other choice. This was the only way. Song Jiangwang's subordinates led them to settle down. It was said to be one of the best rooms in the palace. The standard was so high that it was rarely seen in the world. Tang Zheng guessed most of Song Jiangwang's thoughts, but he didn't point it out. For the rest of the time, Tang Zheng simply took Li Xiaotian to wander around the city to experience the local customs of the world of spirits and souls. It was an eye-opener for her. Tang Zheng knew that waiting was painful, especially for Li Xiaotian. Life and death were in an instant. One could imagine how she felt. He did his best to hope that Li Xiaotian would forget her troubles and immerse herself in joy. Li Xiaotian was indeed very happy on the surface, but very few people knew the pain in her heart. She was only unhappy in private. She once fantasized about dissuading Tang Zheng and telling him not to waste his energy. But when these words were on the tip of her tongue, she had to swallow them back. She didn't have the heart to dampen Tang Zheng's enthusiasm. Tang Zheng was indeed very active. Every day, he asked Song Jiangwang about the other kings of hell's replies. The world of spirits and souls was vast. This caused the transmission of news to be very slow, but it was not a problem for the many kings of hell. They had teleportation arrays in each city that were connected to each other. They could send people and news to each other, thus greatly reducing the time and distance. Under Tang Zheng's relentless questioning, Song Jiangwang always paid attention to the news. Finally, there was a reply. Some kings of hell agreed to come and mentioned Tang Zheng in their reply, hoping to meet him. Tang Zheng didn't expect to be so popular. He had caused such a big commotion in the world of spirits and souls. These people probably hated him to the core, but now they were rushing to meet him. All of this was very different from what he expected. He thought for a moment and understood the reason. These kings of hell were not coming for him, but for Dizang of Goguryeo. They all wanted to do the same, like Song Jiangwang, to curry favor with Tang Zheng. This kind of advantage could not be given to others. Tang Zheng didn't care about their thoughts. As long as they came, he would have a way to get the information he wanted from them. Finally, the appointed day arrived. Tang Zheng and Li Xiaotian arrived at the teleportation array early in the morning, looking forward to witnessing a miracle. Tang Zheng was no stranger to the teleportation array. After all, he had once cast a spell in his backyard to connect to an overseas island. Li Xiaotian had also experienced the teleportation array several times, but this time was different. It was the king of hell that was teleporting back, and it was related to her life and death. She prayed silently in her heart, hoping that the king of hell could bring good news. Her eyes were almost shining as she stared at the teleportation array, not letting go of any details. Powerful yin qi surged around the teleportation array, creating circles of ripples. The teleportation array began. Li Xiaotian's eyes instantly widened. Tang Zheng also narrowed his eyes slightly. His pair of small eyes were very vigilant as he secretly circulated his power. Although the 10 kings of hell were here, they were not his friends after all. What if someone attacked him? Therefore he was fully prepared. Song Jiangwang stood at the side and watched with interest. The ripples of power became more and more intense, and a figure appeared on the teleportation array. Chapter 1358. A figure walked out of the teleportation array, followed by a second and a third. Not long after, the teleportation array was filled with people. Tang Zheng stared at the people who came. One by one, the kings of hell led the way, followed by the ghost kings and ghost generals they brought. What a big lineup! Tang Zheng said. Dizang of Goguryeo had always wanted all living beings in the ghost realm to be equal, without the so-called privileged class. Now it seemed that this hope was too beautiful and did not come true. At least, the 10 kings of hell were still the privileged class. Tang Zheng came from the human world. The forces in the human world were more complicated. How could all living beings be equal? Therefore, he had a deeper understanding. Dizong of Goguryu's wish was very beautiful, but it was unrealistic and ignored the most fundamental thing of human nature. Could it be that the disappearance of Dizong of Goguryo has something to do with this? He suddenly had a thought. He shook his head and threw away this wild thought. One by one, the kings of hell arrived with their subordinates. They also looked at Tang Zheng curiously. If it wasn't for the fact that this was initiated by Tang Zheng, they definitely wouldn't have come. After all, this was Song Jiangwang's territory. If Song Jiangwang had any bad ideas, wouldn't they be walking into a trap? Regarding Tang Zheng, they had too many doubts and shock in their hearts. When they met again, pairs of sharp eyes fell on him, as if they could see through him. However, they failed. Tang Zheng was becoming more and more unfathomable. The teleportation array closed. Tang Zheng looked at the dense crowd and counted them one by one. He was stunned for a moment. Including Song Jiangwang, there were a total of 9 kings of hell. Only King Yenluo was missing. Song Jiangwang also noticed this, and the corners of his mouth curled up into an unfathomable smile. He and King Yenluo had always been at odds, fighting openly and secretly. Even after Dizong of Goguryo appeared, the two of them seemed to be at peace on the surface, but there were still undercurrents surging. King Yenluo did not come to the appointment, which was exactly what Song Jiangwang wanted. In fact, it was also within his expectations. King Yama was also very cautious. He would not easily take the risk and come to Song Jiangwang's territory. In addition, King Yenluo's hatred for Tang Zheng was the strongest among all the kings of hell. It was equivalent to Tang Zheng directly or indirectly changing the structure of the entire ghost realm. King Yenluo was the most affected. He was already suppressing a stomach full of anger. Seeing Tang Zheng and having nowhere to vent his anger, he was afraid that he would suffer from internal injuries. Song Jiangwang glanced at Tang Zheng. He knew that Qin Yi had also noticed the absence of the King Yenluo of hell, and his heart bloomed with joy. As the host, Song Jiangwang stepped forward and said warmly, "Everyone has come from afar and must be tired from the long journey. Come with me to take a rest. This is the first time many of you have come to my Songjiang city. As the host, it is only natural for me to show you around." However, the kings of hell did not appreciate it. They did not spend so much effort to come here just to admire the scenery of Songjiang city. However, they could not help but glance at Song Jiangwang and Tang Zheng. They muttered in their hearts, "When did these two become so close?" This was the effect that Song Jiangwang had deliberately created. Seeing that he had achieved his goal, Song Jiangwang was extremely pleased. Tang Zheng did not care about Song Jiangwang's thoughts. He did not point out that Song Jiangwang had only come to Songjiang city by chance. The Chakravarti king waved his hand and said, "Song Jiangwang, we are not here to see you or to admire the scenery of Songjiang city. We are here for him." The other kings of hell agreed. Song Jiangwang glanced at them meaningfully. These Yama kings were all biased towards King Yenluo, so Song Jiangwang wasn't angry at all. He smiled and said, "Everyone, let's get straight to the point. I can understand your eagerness. Since that is the case, let's invite Tang Zheng to speak." Tang Zheng did not expect these kings of hell to be so direct. This was exactly what he wanted. In fact, the Chakravarti king was also here to investigate the situation on behalf of King Yenluo. Although King Yenluo did not want to see Tang Zheng, he did not dare to ignore him. Tang Zheng coughed and took a step forward. Li Xiaotian had been by his side the whole time. Seeing how he remained calm in the face of so many kings of hell, she could not help but smile. Without a doubt, Li Xiaotian worshipped the strong. This was something that was stored in her genes. It would not change even if she lost her memories. Tang Zheng's every move attracted everyone's attention. Everyone stared at him without blinking. "Dear kings of hell, I have troubled all of you to come all the way here. Thank you for giving me face. I will remember this." Tang Zheng said solemnly. King Qingguang had always been on good terms with King Yenluo. Seeing how the Chakravarti king had embarrassed King Yenluo, he was furious. This time he quickly added, "You are too polite. Since you called for King Yenluo, no matter how busy we would have rushed over immediately." The other kings of hell chimed in as well. They were obviously on King Yenluo's side. This was equivalent to raising King Yenluo's prestige and status. The Chakravarti king and the others were furious, but they could not do anything. Tang Zheng did not pay attention to their scheming and directly said, "Everyone is busy, so I will not waste everyone's time. I want to find Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, and I heard that everyone has more or less clues about him. I hope that everyone will not be stingy and share it with me." Clues about the Dizang of Goguryeo? All the kings of hell were stunned. King Yenluo did not mention this in the message sent by King Yenluo. Everyone was guessing Tang Zheng's purpose, but they never expected him to come for the Dizang of Goguryeo. Of course, they had clues about the Dizang of Goguryeo. However, this was top-secret information and would never be leaked. No one wanted another king of hell to find the Dizang of Goguryeo before them. But this time, it was Tang Zheng who made the request. For a moment, many kings of hell were caught in a dilemma. Doubts arose in their hearts. They looked at King Yenluo meaningfully. Could it be that King Yenluo was purposely using Tang Zheng to ask for information about the Dizang of Goguryeo from them, so that he could find the Dizang of Goguryeo before them? They had to be cautious. Therefore, the king of Chakravarti and the others kept their mouths shut, as if they did not hear anything. King Yenluo was not worried. He immediately gave King Qingguang and the others a look. They understood. King Qingguang's loud voice rang out immediately. He laughed and said, "Ha ha ha, it's not difficult at all. If we don't help with such a small matter, it would make us seem too stingy." The other kings of hell nodded in agreement. They all expressed that they would tell him everything they knew. The king of Chakravarti and the others looked at each other, not knowing what to do. If it was any other matter, they would definitely share it without hesitation. However, this was information about the Dizang of Goguryeo. They could not make this decision. King Yenluo had already expected this. He said jokingly, "Since you are not saying anything, could it be that you are not willing to help Tang Zheng?" The few of them remained silent, not knowing how to respond. Don't find excuses to say that you don't have any clues about the Dizang of Goguryeo. I don't believe this at all. Tang Zheng won't believe this either. We are not 3-year-old children. Why would we believe such a lousy excuse? Humph. King Yenluo pressed on. The king of Chakravarti finally spoke. "King Yenluo, what do you mean by this? If we don't say anything, are you going to pry open our mouths?" King Yenluo was not angry. Song Jiangwang sneered. "For Tang Zheng, I dare to do anything. Why can't I do this?" The king of Chakravarti and the others were furious. King Yenluo was blatantly threatening them. Moreover, he was using the excuse of standing up for Tang Zheng. He was really shameless. King Yenluo was pleased with himself. He stared at the other party with an unfriendly expression. It looked like he was going to start a fight if there was any disagreement. "King Yenluo, you are not the only one in charge in the world of spirits and souls. If you want to pry open our mouths, you need to have the ability to do so. Humph, luckily we did not stay in your palace." This is the teleportation portal. We can activate it at any time and leave this place. Do you think you can stop us? The king of Chakravarti said angrily. They did not leave the teleportation portal because they were worried that King Yenluo would attack them. Therefore, they stayed in the teleportation portal so that they could retreat at any time. From this, it could be seen that the situation in the world of spirits and souls had not eased at all. The so-called calm and peaceful atmosphere was just a facade. Is that so? Are you so confident that you can leave my Songjiang city? King Yenluo raised his eyebrows and said meaningfully. The king of Chakravarti and the others were shocked. King Yenluo, what have you done? This is Songjiang city. Of course, I am the one in charge. Not just anyone can come and go as they please, King Yenluo said in a low voice. Activate the teleportation portal, King Yenluo ordered in anger. His subordinates immediately cast spells and tried to activate the teleportation portal. Mana fluctuated, but it was immediately extinguished and disappeared without a trace. The teleportation portal failed. How did this happen? The king of Chakravarti and the others were shocked. They looked at each other and then at King Yenluo. King Yenluo said proudly, I said before that this is Songjiang city. You can only leave with the permission of me and Tang Zheng. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving. The king of Chakravarti shouted hysterically, King Yenluo, you are so cruel. You did not have good intentions when you called us here. We came because of Tang Zheng, but we did not expect to fall into a trap. Seeing that both sides were at daggers drawn, Tang Jing finally spoke. Everyone, please calm down. I did not invite you here with the intention of harming you. I am looking for the Dizong of Goguryeo. I just hope that you can help me generously. Although King Yenluo was suspected of using Tang Zheng's name, Tang Zheng did not want to correct him. After all, King Yenluo was standing up for him. Other than his reputation in the world of spirits and souls, he did not have much strength or capital. Since King Yenluo was willing to stand up for him, he would not nitpick and reject such good intentions. Seeing that Tang Zheng's tone had softened, the king of Chakravarti and the others did not immediately flare up. They looked at each other and compromised. It is not that we do not want to help you, but we do not want to let King Yenluo take advantage of us. This is my business and has nothing to do with him. There is no issue of letting him take advantage of us, Tang Zheng explained. But this is Songjiang City. Once he gets a lead on us, he will definitely find the Dizong of Goguryeo before us, the king of Chakravarti said straightforwardly. King Yenluo glared at the king of Chakravarti. How dare he not give him face? Then what do you want to do? Tang Jing asked. Go to Fengdu with us. The king of Chakravarti had a plan. This was specially instructed by King Yenluo before they left. No! King Yenluo rejected loudly. Chapter 1359. Song Jiangwang rejected without hesitation. How could he watch as Tang Zheng went to Fengdu? That was King Yenluo's base camp. It wasn't easy for him to get on the good side of Tang Zheng, so how could he let his enemy, King Yenluo, take advantage of him? Seeing Song Jiangwang's reaction, the Chakravarti king felt relieved. He retorted, "This is Tang Zheng's decision, not yours. Do you want to restrict his freedom as well?" The Chakravarti king wasn't an idiot. He took the opportunity to sow discord between Song Jiangwang and Tang Zheng. Song Jiangwang was stunned. He hurriedly defended himself. Of course I won't restrict his freedom. Then we'll listen to his decision, the Chakravarti king said. Instantly, all eyes were focused on Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng was thinking. He was pressed for time. Although Li Xiaotian's body wouldn't be damaged after he performed his arts, too much time could be wasted. Therefore, he was racing against time, seizing every second. The King Yenluo definitely had the most important clue. This was like a puzzle. Without the most important clue, he wouldn't be able to find Dizong of Goguryeo. Therefore, this trip to Fengdu was imperative. Even if the Chakravarti king didn't mention it, he had to go. Song Jiangwang could refuse, but he couldn't. Therefore, he looked deeply into Song Jiangwang's eyes. Song Jiangwang's heart sank. He understood Tang Zheng's decision from the look in his eyes. He sighed inwardly, knowing that he couldn't stop him. Song Jiangwang, thank you for your good intentions, but I must go on this trip to Fengdu. Tang Zheng said resolutely. Song Jiangwang nodded slowly. Understood. Seeing this, the Chakravarti king and the others were secretly delighted. They had finally disrupted Song Jiangwang's plan. The King Yenluo would definitely praise them when he found out. But suddenly, Song Jiangwang raised his voice and said, "For your safety, I'll go with you." Song Jiangwang was going to Fengdu too? The other Yama kings were all shocked, and they stared at Song Jiangwang in disbelief. However, the resolute look on Song Jiangwang's face clearly indicated that he wasn't joking. He had really risked his life for Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng looked at Song Jiangwang with a burning gaze. At this moment, his good impression of him multiplied. He was very clear about the situation in the Ghost Realm and was not willing to let Song Jiangwang take the risk. He said, "No need, I am not someone who will be trampled on by others. If someone really wants to harm me, I will make them pay a painful price." The Chakravarti king hurriedly said, "You worry too much. Fengdu City is the safest place. It will definitely protect you and prevent those with ulterior motives from harming you." Song Jiangwang snorted coldly and said, "You're the ones with ulterior motives, right?" Tang Zheng was like Tang Sanzang's meat, a delicious cake. All forces in the world of spirits and souls wanted to rope him in. Even for the King of Hell, although he secretly hated Tang Zheng to the bone, if he could rope him in, the king of hell would definitely spare no effort. This was the transcendent status of Tang Zheng. We'll go too. This kind of thing naturally needs to be witnessed by everyone. King Qingguang and the others agreed. They did not want Song Jiangwang to go alone and take the risk. Song Jiangwang nodded heavily and agreed with their decision. Tang Zheng did not try to persuade them anymore and said, "Since that's the case, there's no time to lose. Let's go to Fengdu City now." The teleportation array opened and Tang Zheng held Li Xiaotian's hand and disappeared with the other kings of hell. The next moment, they were standing in Fengdu City. Apart from Song Jiangwang, the other kings of hell secretly sized up Li Xiaotian and recognized that she was a living soul. They guessed that Tang Zheng's trip to the ghost realm was related to this living soul. Tang Zheng did not say that he wanted to bring her back to life. Song Jiangwang did not have a way, and he did not expect the other kings of hell to have a way. In the Yama Palace, King Yama had been waiting for a long time. When he saw everyone walking over, he took 3 steps forward and arrived in front of Tang Zheng. He enthusiastically held his hand, as if they were good friends who had not seen each other for a long time. This made Tang Zheng almost have an illusion. He couldn't help but sigh that King Yama was indeed not an ordinary person. No wonder he could command a region. Ha ha ha, the arrival of an esteemed guest truly brings light to Fengdu City. I often miss you since we parted that day. King Yama said insincerely. Tang Zheng smiled awkwardly and said, "This time, I have a request. Between you and me, there is no need to use the word request. If there is anything, just say it. I will do my best to complete it for you," King Yama said enthusiastically. He glanced at Song Jiangwang from the corner of his eye, as if to say that if you can pull strings with Tang Zheng, can't I? Song Jiangwang secretly hated him, but there was nothing he could do. "I want to find Dizong of Goguryeo. I heard that you have clues, so I need this clue." Tang Zheng went straight to the point. "What's this?" King Yama said casually. "When I heard the news of you coming to the ghost realm, I thought that King Song Jiangwang was deliberately mystifying things, so I ignored it. Otherwise, I would definitely go to Songjiang City to see you. Why would I make you go through the trouble of coming to Fengdu City?" Song Jiangwang snorted coldly and said, "Speaking of which, who doesn't know what you're thinking?" King Yama pretended not to hear it and automatically filtered it out. He said enthusiastically, "You want to find Dizong of Goguryeo. Actually, I also want to find him. After all, there are too many things in the ghost realm, and many things still require him, the master of the realm, to make the decision." After pausing for a moment he continued, "It's just that King Song Jiangwang and I have too many differences. I've wanted to cooperate with him several times to find Dizong of Goguryeo, but he didn't agree." "King Yama, when did you find me to cooperate?" King Song Jiangwang immediately retorted. King Yama smiled and didn't argue with him. He continued to say, "Now that you're here, of course I'm willing to give you the relevant clues. As for the others, I can't control them." King Yama took the initiative to gain the upper hand. As expected of the master of Fengdu City, he quickly turned the situation around. Only then did King Song Jiangwang realize that he had underestimated King Yama. Everyone knew that King Song Jiangwang was resourceful, but now it seemed that King Yama was not to be outdone. King Song Jiangwang raised his head high and said, "King Yama, don't say such empty words. Whoever is not willing to share the relevant information with Tang Zheng is my enemy. I will definitely seek justice for Tang Zheng. Sure, if anyone doesn't share, they will also be my enemy. I will never agree," King Yama said without showing any weakness. Since the 2 kings of hell had agreed, the other kings of hell naturally wouldn't have any objections. They all took the initiative to share their information. In fact, the information in their hands had already been shared with King Yama or King Song Jiangwang. The relevant information was immediately gathered together. Not long after, there was a general result. Everyone focused on the result. King Yama and King Song Jiangwang raised their heads at the same time. They were the first to see the clues and came to a conclusion. "So that's how it is. So that's how it is," the 2 of them said at the same time. Tang Zheng was an outsider and didn't know much about the ghost realm. He didn't see any clues and asked curiously, "How is it?" King Song Jiangwang couldn't wait and said, "Dizong of Goguryeo's whereabouts have come out." "Then where is he?" "Eye of Samsara. Eye of Samsara? Tang Zheng frowned in surprise. He had never heard of this place before, but in the ghost realm, this was a well-known place. Because this was the place where the ghosts of the ghost realm reincarnated. It was a public area that didn't belong to any of the 10 kings of hell. Once the 10 kings of hell decided which ghosts wanted to reincarnate, these ghosts would be sent to the Eye of Samsara and reincarnate in the human world. This was a place under the eyes of all the kings of hell, but it was also the place that was most easily ignored. Because this place didn't belong to any king of hell, it had been like this since the moment the ghost realm was formed. Therefore, no king of hell paid too much attention to the Eye of Samsara. They never thought that they would spend so much effort to search for clues everywhere. In the end, the Dizong of Goguryeo was right under their noses. This was really a case of darkness under the light. The kings of hell had complicated feelings, but another question popped up. Why did the Dizong of Goguryeo go missing and run to the Eye of Samsara? If he wanted to save all living beings in the ghost realm, shouldn't he be in various cities? The Eye of Samsara was to be reincarnated in the human world. What was the use of going there? They couldn't figure it out no matter how hard they racked their brains. Perhaps only by finding Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva would they be able to solve this mystery and obtain the answer. Tang Zheng didn't care about this. Since he had found the whereabouts of the Dizong of Goguryeo, of course he couldn't wait to see him. The others had the same thoughts, so they hit it off. Li Xiaotian's eyes also lit up with hope. She looked at Tang Zheng with sparkling eyes. Tang Zheng held her hand tightly and said in a low voice, "Don't worry, there will definitely be a way." King Yen Luo had been sizing up Li Xiaotian. Other than seeing that she was a living soul, he didn't find any other useful information. He couldn't help but feel puzzled. Taking advantage of the gap when everyone was walking towards the teleportation array, he asked curiously, "Tang Zheng, I haven't asked what relationship this lady has with you?" Tang Zheng looked at Li Xiaotian affectionately and said, "She is my lover." Lover? Li Xiaotian couldn't help but stop in her tracks. She looked at Tang Zheng with burning eyes. She was extremely excited, as if she had thousands of words to say, but they were stuck in her chest and she couldn't say a single word. She had the urge to cry. These 2 words meant too much. It was a kind of recognition. She didn't expect him to say it out loud like this. This was a kind of affirmation and recognition for her. Tang Zheng saw through her mood and held her hand even tighter. When the kings of hell heard this, their hearts trembled. They didn't expect this living soul to be his lover. They didn't guess wrong. The purpose of Tang Zheng's trip was definitely related to her. It's a pity that your lover has left you. But don't worry, she will receive the best care in the ghost realm. King Yen Luo hurriedly expressed his stance. His words could indeed give a living soul the best treatment and all kinds of privileges in the ghost realm. Tang Zheng shook his head. "Thank you for your good intentions, but she doesn't need this." King Yen Luo was stunned. A living soul didn't need his care. Could it be that King Song Jiangwang had promised him more benefits? "Don't worry, no matter what King Song Jiangwang promises you, I can do it." King Yen Luo didn't want all the credit to be snatched away by King Song Jiangwang, so he quickly added. King Song Jiangwang looked at King Yen Luo in ridicule, thinking that your flattery had hit the nail on the head. King Yen Luo's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that he had made a mistake? Tang Zheng shook his head and didn't say a word. When the other kings of hell saw this, they didn't dare to ask. Chapter 1360. The Eye of Reincarnation. A huge whirlpool that looked like an eye was suspended in the air, attracting everyone's attention. Tang Zheng and Li Xiaotian were also deeply attracted by this scene, staring at the huge eye at the same time. There were several long lines around the Eye of Reincarnation. All of them were ghosts. Under the arrangement of the ghost messengers and ghost generals, they all entered the Eye of Reincarnation. Swish! A green light fell from the Eye of Reincarnation, enveloping the ghosts below. A burst of Sanskrit suddenly sounded, like heavenly music, making people feel relaxed and happy. A huge golden Sanskrit character flew down from the Eye of Reincarnation and imprinted on the forehead of the ghost. The golden light flashed and the ghost was absorbed into the Eye of Reincarnation, disappearing without a trace. Ha! The 10 kings of hell exclaimed, looking at the Eye of Reincarnation with shining eyes. Shock appeared in their eyes. Why is there a golden Sanskrit character? King Yen Luo finally couldn't help but blurt out. That's right, how could the Eye of Reincarnation have such a thing? It didn't have it before. King Song Jiangwang also found it hard to believe. Tang Zheng's heart moved, recalling the golden Sanskrit character, which belonged to the same lineage as his own Ksitigarbha Sutra. Could it be the doing of the Dizang of Goguryeo? The 10 kings of hell weren't idiots. They immediately thought of this possibility. Where is the Dizang of Goguryeo? They suddenly had an ominous premonition. They couldn't wait to find the Dizang of Goguryeo and ask him what was going on. King Yen Luo suddenly grabbed a ghost general who walked past him and asked sternly, "Stop, I'm asking you a question." The ghost general looked at him with a normal expression and asked, "What's the matter?" "What's the matter?" King Yen Luo felt that this was too strange. Was there anyone in the ghost realm who didn't know him? Seeing him in front of them, they didn't kneel down to pay their respects, but instead asked him so casually. Strange. All of this was filled with strangeness. If it was in the past, not to mention the 10 kings of hell, as long as any of the kings of hell came here, those ghost messengers would stop what they were doing and come forward to pay their respects. But this time, they had mobilized so many Yama kings, yet not a single one of them came forward to pay their respects. This was extremely strange. The other kings of hell also noticed this, and they stared intently at the ghost general in front of them. However, the ghost general's expression was calm, and he didn't show the slightest hint of fear. "Don't you recognize me?" King Yama took a deep breath and suppressed his anger. "You are the king of hell." The ghost general indifferently said. "You know me, yet you dare to be so disrespectful." These words had undoubtedly poked at King Yen Luo's sore spot. Qin Yi had brazenly declared that he knew him, yet he still dared to treat him in such a manner. Was he courting death? All living things are equal. Whether you are the king of hell or someone else, you are all the same in my eyes. The ghost general calmly said. All living beings are equal. Everyone muttered these words and sucked in a breath of cold air as a chill rose in their hearts. They couldn't be more familiar with these words. Wasn't this what the Dizang of Goguryeo had been repeating? The Dizang of Goguryeo had always wanted to deliver all living things from torment, and realize his great wish of equality. However, this was snatching food from the pot of the 10 kings of hell, so how could he agree? All kinds of hypocrisy and civility, and secretly obstructed the Dizang of Goguryeo's plan. Never in their wildest dreams would they have thought that they would actually meet someone who had been truly converted by the Dizang of Goguryeo in the Eye of Reincarnation. They had always thought that the Dizang of Goguryeo had long since given up on this plan. Who would have thought that he would find another way, and actually carry out his plan in a place that even the 10 kings of hell hadn't noticed? They subconsciously glanced at the other ghost generals and ghost envoys. Their expressions were exactly the same as the ghost generals. Could it be that they had all been converted by the Dizang of Goguryeo? At this moment, another ghost stood in the Eye of Reincarnation. The green light descended, and so did the golden Sanskrit characters. Everyone stared at the golden Sanskrit characters at the same time. Suddenly, they realized something and shouted, "The Dizang of Goguryeo must be here." The previous clues only indicated that the Dizang of Goguryeo might be here, but after seeing this scene, they immediately came to this conclusion. The ghost general didn't continue to speak with the king of hell. He turned around and returned to his post. Seeing that he actually dared to turn around and leave, the king of hell became even angrier. He reached out his hand and enveloped the ghost general. He shouted, "How dare you be so impudent?" Whoosh! The ghost general's strength was no match for the king of hell's ghost hand. He flew back towards the king of hell, but he didn't panic. Instead, he was incomparably calm, as if all of this had nothing to do with him. The king of hell didn't see the scene he had expected. He became even angrier, thinking that this was a serious provocation to him. Thus, he grabbed with his finger, and an invisible force contracted inwards, as if wanting to crush the ghost general into pieces. Suddenly, the ghost general stopped in midair and didn't continue to fly towards the king of hell. The ghost general was safe and sound. He didn't shatter into pieces. Instead, he slowly descended and steadily landed on the ground. This wasn't the king of hell being merciful. Everyone saw this and was shocked. They looked around, but didn't see any suspicious people. The king of hell was extremely angry. No matter how hard he tried, it was like a clay ox entering the sea. It had no effect at all. He could only watch as the ghost general was not far away, but he couldn't hurt him at all. This kind of situation had never happened before. Tang Zhang and Li Xiaotian watched this scene attentively. Li Xiaotian whispered, "What's going on?" Tang Zhang slightly shook his head and thoughtfully said, "It seems that the situation in the ghost realm is more complicated than I thought. The 10 kings of hell have encountered a big problem." "What big problem?" "A big problem related to their status." Li Xiaotian didn't really understand. For a moment, he wanted to ask for an explanation, but he found that the situation had changed greatly. The ghost general had already broken free from the King of Hell's control and regained his freedom. He quickly retreated and immediately immersed himself in his work. It was as if nothing had happened and he wasn't affected at all. One after another, ghosts stood in the eye of reincarnation and were sucked into it in an orderly manner. This silent scene seemed to have a huge force that fiercely attacked the nerves of the 10 kings of hell. Finally, they couldn't take it anymore and rushed in. They interrupted the eye of reincarnation and shouted, "Dizong of Goguryeo, where are you? Hurry up and come out." The world instantly quieted down. It was so quiet that it was frightening. The cold wind blew and the cold air seemed to blow into the hearts of the 10 kings of hell. Tang Zhang seemed to have sensed something and looked towards the eye of reincarnation. Li Xiaotian also followed his gaze and asked, "Did you sense something?" Tang Zhang slightly nodded. He cultivated the Xittagarbha Sutra and did sense a familiar energy spreading out from the eye of reincarnation. Whoosh! Sure enough, a golden light spread out from the eye of reincarnation. In an instant, the world was bathed in golden light. This immediately attracted everyone's attention. Those ghost generals were like devout believers. They immediately put their palms together and chanted Buddha's name. The golden light became even brighter. In an instant, this place didn't seem to be the ghost realm, but another world. This illusion made the hearts of the 10 kings of hell fall to the bottom. They looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. The golden light of the eye of reincarnation became stronger and stronger. Finally, a lotus throne gradually appeared. A person sat on it with a solemn appearance. Just a glance was enough to shake one's heart. "Dizong of Goguryeo!" Exclamations sounded one after another as they stared at the figure in the golden light. Who else could it be but the Dizong of Goguryeo? Tang Zheng was pleasantly surprised. He finally found the Dizong of Goguryeo. There was hope for Li Xiaotian's revival. He subconsciously clenched Li Xiaotian's hand. Li Xiaotian felt the change in him, and her heart also tensed up. Xittagarbha Bodhisattva also chanted the name of Buddha, which resonated with the names of the ghost soldiers and ghost messengers. The 10 kings of hell's expression became gloomy and ugly. Even King Song Jiangwang, the king of hell who had always wanted to build a good relationship with Xittagarbha Bodhisattva, had a solemn expression on his face as he stared at Xittagarbha Bodhisattva. King Yen Luo pondered for a moment and finally asked, "Dizong of Goguryeo, what are you doing? Don't you need to give us an explanation?" In fact, the 10 kings of hell had already seen through the actions of the Dizong of Goguryeo. He had converted the ghost messengers and ghost generals of the Eye of Reincarnation. They were no longer the subordinates of any of the kings of hell. However, they had a doubt in their hearts. After all, there were too few ghost messengers and ghost generals here. What was the use of the Dizong of Goguryeo converting so few ghost messengers and ghost generals? There must be a deeper reason for the Dizong of Goguryeo to do this. It was just that they had not discovered it yet. The Dizong of Goguryeo looked at the furious 10 kings of hell and was not frightened. He was still as calm as before as he slowly said, "To save all living beings and to reform all living beings. This is my life's great wish. What I am doing now is to achieve my great wish." "Your great wish? Humph. You make it sound nice. You are harming others for your own benefit, do you know that?" King Yen Luo did not care about angering the Dizong of Goguryeo, because he already felt that he was in imminent danger. Harming others for my own benefit? Hee, what good does this do for me? King Yen Luo was not angry and sneered. These guys all listen to your orders. If this is not harming others for your own benefit, then what is it? King Yen Luo asked aggressively. Who said that they listen to my orders? Isn't that so? The Dizong of Goguryeo chanted the name of Buddha and shook his head with a sigh. No, you are wrong. They are listening to their own hearts. Not me. Listening to their own hearts. The 10 kings of hell felt that these words were like a fantasy story, unreasonable. In their view, subordinates obey their superiors and ultimately listen to their orders. This was the truth. Listening to one's own heart. Wasn't this nonsense? It was really unheard of. What kind of people were the 10 kings of hell? Of course, they would not be moved by these words. They all stared at the Dizong of Goguryeo with unkind expressions and said, "You are destroying the foundation of the ghost realm and will cause chaos in the ghost realm. At that time, you will not be the one to save all living beings and bring them a peaceful life. Instead, you will bring them endless suffering. This does not depend on me, but on all of you." The Dizong of Goguryeo was not intimidated by these threats. The King of Hell's meaning could not be more obvious. Chapter 1361. Dizong of Goguryeo naturally understood the intentions of the 10 kings of hell, but he did not give in. He said solemnly, "The peace and stability of the ghost realm cannot be destroyed. If anyone dares to violate the universal condemnation, they will be punished accordingly." Dizong of Goguryeo had the heart of a bodhisattva, but he also had the courage of a vajra. He would not be threatened by the kings of hell. These words made the 10 kings of hell stunned as they stared at him blankly. But who were the 10 kings of hell? Naturally, they would not compromise. They looked at each other and said resolutely, "Do you dare to kill all of us kings of hell? The sea of bitterness is boundless. Repent and the shore is at hand. If we are lost, I don't mind doing so." I think the beings of the ghost realm would also like to see this scene. Dizong of Goguryeo pondered for a while and said. The pupils of the 10 kings of hell shrank. They did not expect the Dizong of Goguryeo to be so resolute, as if he had made up his mind. In fact, Dizong of Goguryeo also knew that the 10 kings of hell were not lying. If he really wanted to get rid of the 10 kings of hell, the ghost realm would be in chaos. After all, they had been operating for so many years, it would not be so easy for them to fall apart. But one thing was certain. The Dizong of Goguryeo and the 10 kings of hell were well aware of this point. Once this period of chaos was over, the ghost realm would eventually return to peace and harmony. It might even be more peaceful than it was now. After all, no one wanted someone to ride on their head, and even more so, did not want their fate to be in the hands of others. The Dizong of Goguryeo's promotion of equality was undoubtedly their gospel, and could remove the shackles on their bodies. The beings of the ghost realm were happy to see this happen. The 10 kings of hell looked at each other. For a moment, they did not know how to respond. Song Jiangwang was resourceful and had an idea. He looked at the Eye of Reincarnation and said, "Dizong of Goguryeo, you didn't come here just to save these ghost messengers and ghost generals, did you?" "That's right. How could I forget this?" The hearts of the other kings of hell immediately lit up, and they all turned to Dizong of Goguryeo with unblinking eyes. Every king of hell had this question in their hearts, but they were completely confused by the question thrown by Dizong of Goguryeo. For a moment, they didn't think of this crucial point. Dizong of Goguryeo stared deeply at Song Jiangwang. Surprisingly, he did not hide anything and said honestly, "What I do is, of course, to deliver all living beings from torment." Song Jiangwang pointed and said, "Could it be that this is what you're referring to? This doesn't sound like the great ambition of Dizong of Goguryeo." "Of course not." Dizong of Goguryeo shook his head and said meaningfully, "I want to convert all living beings under the heavens. Although they are one of them, they are too few." The hearts of the 10 kings of hell trembled. Song Jiangwang seemed to have caught on to something and impatiently asked, "Then how are you going to convert all living beings under the heavens?" Dizong of Goguryeo gave an enigmatic smile. The smile at the corner of his mouth was like 10 miles of spring wind, making people feel relaxed and happy. Tang Zhang and Li Xiaotian had this kind of feeling. Especially Li Xiaotian. His soul seemed to have been strengthened and he enjoyed this feeling very much. For a moment, Tang Zhang had no choice but to temporarily suppress his purpose of coming here. He quietly looked at the two sides who were at daggers drawn. Dizong of Goguryeo pointed to the Eye of Reincarnation in the sky and said, "The souls reincarnated from here have already been baptized by the Ksitigarbha Sutra and have been converted. The concept of all living beings being equal will be rooted in their souls. Whether they reincarnate as humans or die in the future, this concept will always accompany them." The 10 kings of hell seemed to have heard something extremely terrifying. They were all moved and turned pale with fright. They cried out involuntarily, You actually have this plan. This is really a good plan. Everyone was shocked by this plan. Tang Zhang was also shocked and asked, doesn't that mean that when they are reincarnated as humans, the belief of all living beings being equal will also accompany them when they are in the human world? Dizong of Goguryeo had already seen Tang Zheng. Although he did not understand the purpose of his visit, he still nodded in a friendly manner and said, yes. Tang Zheng also realized the huge changes this would bring. It would not only affect the ghost world but also the human world. From then on, the new generation born would not recognize the existing rules of the world. They would believe in the equality of all living beings. At that time, the original world system would be completely destroyed, and it would also cause chaos. Tang Zheng realized the seriousness of the problem, and his face could not help but change greatly. In fact, as a person of the new era, he also understood the great significance of all living beings being equal. But how could there be such a good thing in the world? This kind of change would definitely be accompanied by bloody sacrifices. This was something he did not want to see. If all living beings were really equal, then the world structure would change greatly. Even countries would not exist. He did not even dare to imagine that scene. King Yenluo had an idea, as if he had discovered a new continent. He looked at Tang Zheng with a burning gaze and said, Tang Zheng, now you know the serious consequences of his plan. Not only will it cause chaos in the ghost world, even your human world will not be spared. Song Jiangwang also nodded. He was someone who had vested interests, so of course he did not want his privileges to go down the drain. At least on this matter, the 10 kings of hell had a common request and reached a unified opinion. Dizong of Goguryeo did not care about King Yenluo's attempt to sow discord. Instead, he stared kindly at Tang Zheng and said, Tang Zheng, you cultivate the Ksitigarbha Sutra, so you should understand my good intentions. Tang Zheng pondered for a moment and secretly nodded, I understand. Of course he understood the great significance of all this. If this was really realized, then perhaps there would be no more disputes in this world, no more bloodshed, and it would be a paradise. The paradise that was mentioned in the Ksitigarbha Sutra might be like this. Although Li Xiaotian did not understand Dizong of Goguryeo and the ghost world, she still vaguely understood 70 to 80% of it. Her expression changed greatly as she grabbed Tang Zheng's hand and slightly shook her head, saying, No, this will not work. Dizong of Goguryeo asked doubtfully, Why? Someone questioned his great ambition, so he naturally wanted to know the reason. Li Xiaotian raised her head and stared at Dizong of Goguryeo in a daze, hesitating. Tang Zheng knew that Li Xiaotian was resourceful and meticulous. Every word and action of hers had a deep meaning, so she would not speak carelessly to him. Thus he patted her hand and encouraged her, If you have any ideas, boldly say it. Although he agreed with Dizong of Goguryeo's great ambition, and this was definitely a good starting point, he also understood that it would cause a lot of chaos and even sacrifice. Thus, for a moment, he did not know how to choose. Listening to Li Xiaotian's point of view was a good idea. Li Xiaotian glanced at Tang Zheng and was encouraged by him. Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward and bowed to Dizong of Goguryeo, saying, This is just a small opinion of mine. If there is anything wrong, please forgive me. Seeing that Tang Zheng's companion actually rejected Dizong of Goguryeo's point of view, the 10 kings of hell's eyes lit up. They were all full of interest and could not wait to hear her opinion. She was the girl that Tang Zheng loved. If she could persuade Tang Zheng, then Tang Zheng could stand on their side and persuade Dizong of Goguryeo, then they could avoid a huge dispute. The Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva smiled amiably, looking like he was all ears. He was not angry. If he could not even persuade a living soul, then his so-called deliverance of all living beings would be like the moon in the water. Therefore, he wanted to convert this living soul. Although the world of spirits and the human world are two different worlds, along the way, although I have not seen much, my feelings are very deep. There are many similarities between the two worlds. There is no doubt about this. Li Xiaotian was not a person who had stage fright. After calming her mind, she spoke frankly with assurance. When the others heard this, they nodded and agreed with her conclusion of observation. Since there are similarities, then the world of spirits and souls can also be judged by the human world's experience. There were all kinds of strange people in the world. Every person was an individual with their own unique way of thinking. In this world, there will never be two people who are exactly the same. Even if their appearance is the same, their thoughts will definitely be completely different. Li Xiaotian was naturally intelligent and had enough understanding of human nature. Otherwise, she would not be able to lead the Li Palace. It is precisely because of this unique characteristic that humans will have selfish desires and different identities. This different identity will inevitably cause all living beings to be unable to be equal. Dizong of Goguryeo listened quietly and retorted, "It is true that humans have selfish desires, but a soul that has experienced the Ksiddhagarbha scripture's conversion can overcome this selfish desire and thus strengthen the belief that all living beings are equal." Li Xiaotian still stubbornly shook her head and said resolutely, "Impossible. There is no such thing as complete fairness in this world, and even more so, there will not be a person who is completely fair. In fact, in human history, there have been people who have dreamed of establishing such a society, but in the end, they all failed. Because this is against human nature." Against human nature? Dizong of Goguryeo frowned. These 3 words were without a doubt a very serious accusation, almost rejecting his grand wish from the very foundation. When the 10 kings of hell heard this, they were all overjoyed. This girl had a sharp tongue, and the words of an outsider were worth 10,000 of their words. Because she did not have any vested interests, her words were more persuasive than the 10 kings of hell. Tang Zheng fell into deep thought. Li Xiaotian's words were like pouring wisdom into his head, making him suddenly see the light, as if a light had lit up his heart. Since he started cultivating the Ksiddhagarbha scripture, many of his thoughts had gradually leaned towards the Dizong of Goguryeo. Therefore, when the Dizong of Goguryeo raised this grand wish, although he knew that there would definitely be hope, he did not oppose it. But after all, he was someone who had lived in the human world for nearly 20 years, and his daily experience was very profound. Especially after Li Xiaotian's advice, his feelings were the most intense. Li Xiaotian seemed to be excited as she continued, "Your plan seems perfect, and the starting point is also very good. It is for the sake of all living beings, but it is a castle in the air. It seems perfect, but the foundation is not stable, and in the end, it will fall short of success." Li Xiaotian dared to say that, and these words completely rejected the hundreds and thousands of grand wishes of the Dizong of Goguryeo. This was undoubtedly a huge blow and challenge. When she finished speaking, there was complete silence. No one objected, and no one agreed. Instead, the 10 kings of hell looked at her with a trace of respect and gratitude. Dizong of Goguryeo's solemn expression changed for the first time. His eyes narrowed slightly, and his gaze fluctuated incessantly as he looked straight at Li Xiaotian. Chapter 1362. Li Xiaotian met Dizong of Goguryeo's gaze without a trace of fear. These were her heartfelt words. She admired Dizong of Goguryeo for having such a great ambition, but she did not believe that it could be realized. Tang Zheng understood Li Xiaotian. Looking at her firm eyes, his heart stirred, as if he was infected by these words. The 10 kings of hell almost cheered. These words were more convincing than if they had said it themselves. Because this was said by an unrelated person, she was not a person with vested interests. Dizong of Goguryeo's expression kept changing. He looked straight at Li Xiaotian and said, "Do you really think that my great ambition is a castle in the air?" "Yes." Looking like Dizong of Goguryeo's imposing manner, Li Xiaotian took a deep breath and insisted on her point of view. Dizong of Goguryeo did not get angry. He muttered, "I will prove that you are wrong." "How will you prove it?" The others also looked at Dizong of Goguryeo curiously, not knowing how he would prove it. "You are a living soul. You will witness how I achieve all of this in the ghost realm," Dizong of Goguryeo said without hesitation. Song Jiangwang's heart moved. He quickly turned his head to look at Tang Zheng. Dizong of Goguryeo wanted to keep Li Xiaotian in the ghost realm. This was undoubtedly the opposite of Tang Zheng's goal. Would he agree? As expected, Tang Zheng's expression changed when he heard this. He said, "Absolutely not." "Why not?" Dizong of Goguryeo did not expect Tang Zheng's reaction to be so big. He could not help but ask curiously. Tang Zheng did not delay any longer and simply stated his purpose. "I came to the ghost realm to bring her back to life. I will not let her stay in the ghost realm." As soon as these words came out, other than Song Jiangwang, the other 9 kings of hell were shocked. With their experience, they never thought that someone would dare to make such a request. Of course, they were the same as Song Jiangwang. They had no way to do this. Dizong of Goguryeo raised his eyebrows. His calm face seemed to wrinkle. He stared at Tang Zheng and asked, "You want to bring her back to life?" Tang Zheng nodded heavily. "Human death is a law of nature. You are going against the law of nature. Do you understand?" Dizong of Goguryeo asked. Tang Zheng nodded his head openly and without hiding anything. "You are a cultivator. You should understand the laws of nature and not go against them," Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva said earnestly. Tang Zheng had a different opinion. He shook his head and said, "Cultivators seize the good fortune of heaven and earth. They cultivate their body and mind, prolong their lifespan and enhance their strength. This is fighting against the heavens. How can you talk about following the law of nature? If you really follow the law of nature, then you should be an ordinary person and live and die normally." Dizong of Goguryeo did not expect Tang Zheng to have such an argument. He was stunned, but he was not frightened by these words. "Your words seem to make sense, but in fact, they are ridiculous." Hearing Dizong of Goguryeo bluntly reprimanding Tang Zheng's words as ridiculous, the 10 kings of hell became excited. Their eyes lit up. There was no doubt that Tang Zheng was on their side. If they had an ally like Tang Zheng, the 10 kings of hell would have more bargaining chips. Li Xiaotian's heart tightened. He looked at Tang Zheng worriedly. He wanted to persuade him, but there was no way to do so. Tang Zheng was a stubborn person. Once he made up his mind, no matter what she said, she would not be able to persuade him to change his mind. Moreover, Li Xiaotian agreed with Tang Zheng's words from the bottom of his heart. He did not want him to go against his will and say words that went against his heart. "I don't think it's ridiculous," Tang Zheng argued. Dizong of Goguryeo shook his head. "We can be different from ordinary people because we are the chosen ones. The heavens chose us. That is why we have today's achievements." "The chosen ones?" Tang Zheng frowned. This statement was extremely mysterious, but he did not believe it at all. Dizong of Goguryeo seemed to see through his thoughts and continued, "The chosen ones naturally follow the heavens. They are definitely not fighting against the heavens as you said, because everything you have is given to you by the heavens. Otherwise, do you think you can have today's achievements?" Tang Zheng suddenly felt that it was a little ridiculous. He admired Dizong of Goguryeo very much, but he felt that his statement was really ridiculous. Perhaps, this was the difference between the ancient people and the modern people. Dizong of Goguryeo still retained many of the ancient people's thoughts, so it was inevitable that there would be limitations. Tang Zheng's strength could not be compared to the Dizong of Goguryeo, but in some aspects, he felt that he was better than the Dizong of Goguryeo. "My achievements are the result of my own hard work, not the heavens." "You are wrong about this," Tang Zheng retorted bluntly. Dizong of Goguryeo heard this and his frown deepened. This was a challenge to his authority, and even his beliefs. "You are going astray. I taught you the Ksitigarbha Sutra, but I didn't expect that after so long, you still haven't understood the essence of it. Instead you have gone astray. What a pity." Dizong of Goguryeo sighed with regret. After a pause, Dizong of Goguryeo looked at Li Xiaotian and said, "All living things are equal. You are the same as everyone else. After they die, they cannot be resurrected. You can't either. Even if I have a way, I will not make an exception for you." Tang Zheng raised his eyebrows. He went through untold hardships to meet the Dizong of Goguryeo just to ask him about the method of resurrection. Now, he did not care about his feelings at all and directly rejected him. Tang Zheng would not sit by and do nothing. He asked doubtfully, "Dizong of Goguryeo, do you have a method of resurrection?" "Of course, although this is difficult, it is not absolutely impossible. But I will not do so," Dizong of Goguryeo said decisively. He insisted on his beliefs and would not compromise at all. Tang Zheng's head sank and said, "For me, can't you make an exception?" Dizong of Goguryeo shook his head without hesitation. "I deliver all living things from torment, for all living things to be equal. How can I go against my own great wish here?" Li Xiaotian was disappointed. She originally thought that after finding the Dizong of Goguryeo, she could be resurrected and be together with Tang Zheng. But her dream was shattered. The corner of her mouth hooked up into a bitter smile. She thought bitterly, "Forget it, this period of time is already the happiest time of my life. Even if I can't be resurrected, I can often reminisce about it. This is enough. However, Tang Zheng did not think so. He had promised Li Xiaotian. Moreover, there was a way, and it was not that there was no way. How could he back down? He finally understood the mystery behind Li Xiaotian's words. People were selfish and had the concept of closeness and distance. It was impossible to treat everyone equally. It was simply impossible to achieve equality for all living things. At this moment, he had a deep understanding. He understood that Dizong of Goguryuo's great wish was really a castle in the air, without a solid foundation. In fact, Tang Zheng was a person of great love and righteousness. If he could not do this, others might not be able to do it. The 10 kings of hell saw that the atmosphere between the two sides was becoming more and more delicate, and the differences were getting bigger and bigger. Especially on the matter of resurrecting Li Xiaotian, the differences between the two sides could not be reconciled. At that moment, they all saw hope and looked at Dizong of Goguryeo in ridicule. Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva looked at Tang Zheng with a burning gaze as he had already seen through his thoughts. He loudly chanted the name of Buddha, raised his palm and said in a loud voice, "Tang Zheng, you have already gone astray. The sea of bitterness is boundless. Turn back and you will be saved. Otherwise, your life's cultivation and achievements will all be for naught." Tang Zheng was not moved. He said, "I don't think this is a sea of bitterness or a wrong path. I have made up my mind. I must save her. No one can stop all of this." Pausing for a moment, Tang Zheng emphasized each word. "No. No one." The 10 kings of hell almost cheered in excitement. This was Tang Zheng's declaration against the Dizong of Goguryeo. To them, it was as pleasant as heavenly music. The corners of the 10 kings of hell's mouth couldn't help but reveal an undetectable smile. Li Xiaotian subconsciously tightened his grip on Tang Zheng's hand. His heart also tensed up as he nervously looked at the Dizong of Goguryeo. Pairs of eyes simultaneously locked onto the Dizong of Goguryeo. Dizong of Goguryeo looked at Tang Zheng with bright eyes. His originally kind eyes became sharper. After pondering for a long time, he said, "Tang Zheng, you should go back. This is not something you can control." "If I don't succeed, I will not go back," Tang Zheng said resolutely. "Then you can stay. Anyway, with your 9-yang saint body, you don't need to fear this Yin Qi." "No." Tang Zheng firmly shook his head. He didn't have time to delay. If Li Xiaotian dragged on for too long and couldn't be revived, then it would be too late for regrets. "Are you so stubborn?" Seeing that Tang Zheng even refused to eat, the Dizong of Goguryeo became angry. Back then, when he faced the Shura and the king of the underworld, he used thunderous methods. It could be seen that although he had a merciful heart, he could also become angry. That anger was not something an ordinary person could endure. Tang Zheng obviously understood this point but did not back down in the slightest as he said, "Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva, no matter what request you have, as long as you can save her then I will agree to it. You can't help me, so naturally you won't ask for anything." Tang Zheng took a deep breath and asked one last time, "You really won't save her? All life is equal. She will not receive any special treatment." The Dizong of Goguryeo insisted. Tang Zheng finally understood that no matter how he earnestly begged, the Dizong of Goguryeo would not agree to it. Tang Zheng took a step forward and closed the distance between him and the Dizong of Goguryeo. He said in a deep voice, "Dizong of Goguryeo, your cultivation is higher than mine, but for her, even if I know I can't win, I still have to make a move. If I win by a fluke or two, I don't know if you will agree to let me revive her." He was directly issuing a challenge. Audacious to the extreme. The 10 kings of hell all had the same thought in their hearts. Although they opposed the Dizong of Goguryeo, none of them dared to challenge the Dizong of Goguryeo and fight with him. This was because they knew very well that they were not a match for the Dizong of Goguryeo. The 10 kings of hell cared about their own reputation and would not fight even if they knew they would lose. Tang Zheng was different. He knew he would lose, but he still fought for a chance to live. Giving up without trying was not his style. He only hoped that the Dizong of Goguryeo would agree to this condition. However, the Dizong of Goguryeo directly shook his head. "No, no matter if you win or lose, I will not revive her." Tang Zheng almost spat out a mouthful of old blood. The Dizong of Goguryeo was so stubborn. He had no choice but to fight and force him to revive Li Xiaotian. "Then I'll offend you. Tang Zhang made his move. The Dizang of Goguryeo chanted the name of Buddha. The sea of bitterness is boundless, repent and the shore is at hand. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.